From Harry Hurley Way and the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome. It is 7 minutes past the hour. I need a little bit of time, but I do want to take calls this hour because we are just completely jammed this morning, and I'll tell you why. Normally, we would have had what we typically do in the 6 o'clock hour, yours truly. 7 o'clock hour would have been Kirk Conover. 8 o'clock hour, Chuck Malamut. 9 o'clock hour, Wide Open Forum. So we're mixing it up, though, because what I want to do, and if you're a reader of mine, you already know this, and I hope you will take a couple of minutes each day and just take a look at the articles that we write, the content that we deliver on a daily basis. I'm already twice published this morning and 4 times published yesterday. It was a very busy day, and I've committed to an Ernest Corsi on-air prayer chain for the 7 o'clock hour. And I'll explain when we get there. Again, if you're a reader, you already know. You can check that out right now on the app or at WPGTalkRadio.com. 8 o'clock hour, Chuck Malamut. 9 o'clock hour, Kirk Conover. We've just flipped Kirk from the 7 o'clock to the 9 o'clock hour. Well, while you were minding your own business and sleeping, and I'll tell you, I don't know if I told you this yesterday, but Sunday into Monday is my worst night of sleep of the week. Shouldn't be that way, but I can't help it. I try to get back to normal on the weekend with the 2 o'clock wake-up call. Of course, I wake up at 2 o'clock on the weekends too, but I close my eyes, and then I try to get up at around 5-ish, 6 at the latest, something like that. Well, for whatever reason, and I think over the past year or two, it's gotten even worse. Sunday into Monday, if I'm going to have a bad night's sleep, it's Sunday into Monday. And I can't explain it. I think maybe just my mind starts to really get back in gear, even though we write on the weekend and we stay busy and we show prep and, we're working. It's just different than the Monday through Friday cycle. And I thought Sunday was going to be spectacular. But what I've concluded is, I don't know how your body works, but I have a window. And when I feel that I can fall asleep, I need to do it. Because if I miss the window, then I just don't get to sleep. Then I think what happens is if you start to press, I don't mean depress, getting depressed, but if you start to press, then forget about it. So I don't know if I told you this yesterday, but I did not sleep. I woke up at about 5. Well, I woke up at around 2, got up at about 5, and then I didn't sleep again until about 9 o'clock, maybe a little bit later than that, last night. Not good. So I had been up for about 30 hours. Can't stand that. So what happened to me Sunday into Monday, I didn't sleep. Got through yesterday, no problem. Started to feel tired at around 5, but I'm not going to sleep at 5 o'clock at night. Then at around 8, I laid down, hoping, because that would be about 6 hours, which is beautiful for me. But it didn't happen. And I actually thought for about an hour, holy smokes, if this happens again, I'm going to be a zombie. but I did get to sleep, I think, at around 9:30, I think. Usually wake up once or more during the night, but can go right back to sleep. And then at 2 o'clock, I got up. So I did get some sleep. I think I got about 4 or 5 hours, sort of broken up a little bit. But, boy, I was happy when I got some sleep because I did not want to go through a second day. It's not a good feeling at all. So anyhow, it just reminded me of that when I said when you were minding your own business sleeping, anti-Israel protesters have taken over a Columbia University campus building. So they've escalated this, taken it to a whole nother level. Students breaking windows, blocking doors, of course, coward, face-covered punks, pro-Hamas punks. Students are barricaded at Hamilton Hall. I'm trying to remember. For some reason, I don't even know why, but I've committed this to memory. Anyhow, they put a sign up, and it's not Hamilton Hall anymore. It's Hinds Hall, Hinds. Evidently, that's a young Palestinian girl. You know what you have to do? And I know this university president just sucks at her job. She needs to be fired. When this is all over, she needs to be immediately terminated. Just terrible. But another thing they have to do, they got to look at these laws. Like Columbia University is private, so police can't come on campus? What are you talking about? You're telling me if somebody commits a murder, you have to, no, you can't come here. We have to allow you to come here. And they're not. Go look at some of the examples in the state of Texas and some other examples. These punks are getting drug out. Their stuff just being knocked down, pulled away, their tents and all this. You can't have anarchy. That's what this is. They're trying to negotiate that they're not going to get criminally charged and all this happy nonsense. No, I don't think so. Boy, a big difference, though. Why isn't this January 6th material? Interesting, isn't it? Democrats can never allow. It's like nothing can ever top Watergate, and nothing will ever rise above their Independence Day. I think I coined that, by the way. Their Independence Day isn't July 4th, 1776. They hate America. Their Independence Day is January 6th. They love it. They celebrate it. So I say, in the immortal words of referring to Hillary Clinton, lock them up. That's all. Just lock them up. It's like they're in there and they're hermetically sealed or something. No, just go to hell in there and drag them out. And rip their diapers off their faces while you're at it. Good news. President Trump privately met with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis this past weekend. They met for about 3 hours and really, well, what's the expression? Buried the hatchet, but not in each other's backs. And it was a bruising Republican primary with insults, personal attacks, professional attacks, bruised egos. I mean, you name it. They met, they buried the hatchet, they're discussing potential joint fundraising efforts, which is huge. Democrat media very unhappy about this because they don't want them to get together, but they are. And the thing you have to understand, although DeSantis was not a good candidate for president, I think it's because his whole candidacy was overshadowed by Trump. He should have been a great candidate. I like Greg Abbott a lot, and what he's done for immigration is huge. But I think that Ron DeSantis is the best governor in America. And he has a deep network of financial contributors. He raised something like, and this was at the very beginning, he raised $130 million. So he dropped out when he should have, not like Nikki Haley. DeSantis did it right. He endorsed Trump, but it wasn't great. It was a very timid, if you will, lukewarm endorsement, and then nothing followed. No collegiality, no help, nothing. So this is big. Them getting together is a very big thing. Also, it was kind of interesting. I heard a discussion that is making me rethink. I got to run. We'll be right back, and we'll take some calls as well. So hang in there on the phone lines. I just thought, hey, look, the Constitution says you can't have a president and a vice president run together hailing from the same state. There's reasons for that. Remember, it used to be set up that the one with the most electoral votes was president, the one with the second most was vice president, and that got enemies as president and vice president, so they changed it to that you would run with it, on a ticket with a running mate and so on. But it seems as though he could run with DeSantis. There might be a problem with the Florida electors, and then the VP could come up short. This was pretty fascinating to learn. I don't know that you want to do something like that, where then if Democrats have control, remember, the House of Representatives picks the president if there's a controversy, a tie or something like that, and the Senate picks the vice president. Our founding fathers, infinitely wise, set up such an amazing, think about it, what is it, 234 years later? It's extraordinary what they did. You want to say they thought of everything. They thought of just about everything. So there could be, if Trump wants to pick Marco Rubio or, say, Governor Ron DeSantis, there would be this little sticky wicket of the Florida electors. But what would the Senate do? They would not allow the elected president to have his vice president. So there would be no vice president. But it would be handled. Even if Trump then had to nominate, and then what are they going to do? If he nominates DeSantis, the Senate is going to what? Not confirm him? That would be ridiculous. Plus, I think the Republicans are going to have the Senate. So guess what? I'm back in on the it's okay. It's a little messy, but it can be overcome, I think. In fact, I'm almost sure. I'm not a fan of picking a strategy that automatically invites litigation and problems in politics, but it's all political anyhow and messed up. So that wouldn't be necessarily a bad fight to have. But again, I do believe Republicans are going to win the Senate. I think they're going to have at least a 2-seat, like a 52-48 type deal majority. And not having to cobble independents like Democrats have, like 48 and 3 independents. It's terrible. Republicans should have between 52, if it goes absolutely perfect, 54. And all they would need if Trump wins is 50. So I think they're going to get it. We'll be back. Don't go away. It's, wow, I'm a little late. 21 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 welcomes President Donald Trump back to Wildwood.
I love New Jersey, and I'm thrilled to be back right here in the Garden State.
President Donald Trump on the beach in Wildwood, Saturday afternoon, May 11th. Stay with WPG Talk Radio 95.5 for exclusive interviews, ticket information, and live coverage of the rally. President Donald Trump in Wildwood, Saturday, May 11th. Your official Wildwood Rally radio station is WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Fox News commentary.
Former President Trump met with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the weekend, and I like what I'm hearing. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
The elites want more control through digital currencies in a cashless society. This is Stephen K. Bannon, and I believe gold is the answer to safeguard your wealth, especially if you own your gold inside of a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting SHELTER to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. So text SHELTER to the number 989898 to claim your free info kit today.
Message and data rates may apply.
According to several reports, former President Trump met privately with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the weekend in Miami. While we don't have details on exactly what they discussed, the reunification of the conservative movement's top two leaders is a feast for sore eyes. The rocky primary season tit for tat put the conservative movement in a tough spot, so I'm happy to hear the strongest patriots of our movement might be reconciling and moving towards a bright future in partnership. Now, some are speculating this could be the precursor to a potential DeSantis running mate announcement. Well, that would be logistically complicated given both men are Florida residents, but the thought is pretty stellar. Either way, I hope the two men join forces and campaign vigorously for Republicans up and down the ballot, because now is time for the conservative powerhouses to come together. This is a great sign. Trump 2024, DeSantis 2028. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
Not only the news, but perspective too.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Kristi Noem had a brutal news day cycle yesterday. It was about as bad as it gets because she got it from everybody. Conservative media, Democrat media, just a really brutal news cycle. And it's spilling into today as well. And then when her book comes out, it'll come back again like it's the first time. So I just wanted to familiarize myself with how not this kind of thing, but similar things. Remember 1983, Mitt Romney put his dog Seamus in a kennel on top of the roof of his car, and he drove from Boston to Canada. Well, the Democrat media went bananas. Absolutely bananas. Then Romney brought out, all right, well, look, I had like a condominium and my dog loved it. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, and I'm getting trashed. My opponent, Barack Obama, ate dog. And it's all good. So that's the part that drives people crazy. Romney had a dog condominium. It was the end of the world. Kristi Noem shot the dog, Cricket, in a ditch or something, and getting brutalized. But Obama can dine on dog and, call him president. So that's the part that drives people batty. And look, I've spent almost 32 years of my life chronicling the double standard. It's never going to change. Matter of fact, I was thinking about this before airtime this morning. The Democrat media, for decades, they were merely biased. Then they became supercharged bias. Now they are pure propaganda. They blatantly lie. I mean, look with this Biden. Do you realize Biden doesn't even talk about these anti-Israeli protesters, and the Democrat media just gives them a break? They know, oh my God, this election's 6 months away. He's completely just paralyzed. He can't even talk about it. So then you have this nitwit, Karine Jean-Pierre, talking her bubblegum crazy, logic People have a right to free speech. Yeah, but not to be violent, not to be anti-Semitic. That's not free speech. This is where Columbia and all of them have it exactly wrong. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Harry. It's a great day in the city of Brigantine out for my daily 3-mile morning constitutional.
Good.
Isn't it interesting now that the left-wing media love Mitt Romney? How could they love such a man who was so cruel to animals?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, they love George W. Bush, who they used to call Hitler.
Yeah. How about, so Joe Biden, I'm just picking this up while I was on hold. So Joe Biden doesn't talk about what's happening on these college campuses.
Not a word. He didn't realize he hasn't spoken a single word that I'm aware of. How can you be the American president and not comment on these things?
Well, remember Afghanistan. Remember Biden said that they've turned the page. If you don't talk about Afghanistan, it didn't happen. If you don't talk about Tony Bobolinsky, he was never born. It didn't happen.
Oh, you mean like the child? If the child covers its eyes, you can't see the child anymore?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
They don't talk about certain things that put them in a bad light. So it's like it never happened. It's like it's not happening. And I'll tell you what has to happen on these college campuses. What we're seeing now is a chop or chap or Chaz redo from 2020, right? On a smaller scale, I guess.
Well, and by the way, you're so spot on about this. It turns out now they have confirmed you have Antifa, which is so hilarious. Antifa, whatever you want to call them. They say they're anti-fascist, but they are fascists.
Right. It's like you say, they accuse you of what they're guilty of.
Like a baseball player's out on the field in the uniform with a glove, batting, fielding, but I'm not a baseball player. I mean, I'm Antifa. I mean, it's crazy what is going on right now.
But remember now, what is happening on college campuses now that they've locked themselves in this building and they won't let anybody come in? This is reminiscent of what you see throughout Europe. You see it in France. You see it in Britain. These Muslim enclaves where they have their own Sharia law. They practice their own ways. They do not assimilate, and they will not even allow the police from that country, from that city, to enter their enclaves. They're not, and the police are afraid to enter those enclaves.
I mean, the optics of this pro-Hamas activity. The Hamas flag is flying at Hamilton Hall right now. They are up in the balcony like they are the socialist dictators of their own country, sort of what you're talking about. They're smashing windows. You're seeing this intifada. I had someone write me, what is this intifada? Well, if you go back in time, there was an uprising against Israel, and the Palestinians called it intifada. That has now been used not just for what happened on the West Bank and the Gaza Strip beginning back in like 1987, but it's now used anytime there's an uprising. So now you've got them writing and chanting intifada, death to America, death to Israel. I mean, this is crazy. And then you have the Columbia University president, Andy, that will not allow the police to come and do their job.
No. Well, if you remember the Seinfeld episode where George ate the eclair, but he said it was in the trash can, but it was above the rim, hovering like an angel. And Jerry said to him, next to refuse is refuse. So the people who, the regular students there who are joining in, while they may not be these professional agitators who've been brought in and paid by George Soros, who will protest any cause. They don't even know what they're protesting. Okay, they're next to...
Hey, by the way, I only learned this yesterday, Andy, and I don't know whether we should be surprised or if this is just the, normal operating procedure. The Rockefeller Fund is actually paying for this kind of activity as well. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, now you know it. Soros has been called out by the media and the Rockefeller Fund, which that shocked me. And I'm going to do some homework and read up on who manages this fund and what is their philosophy of business, because this is a bad thing to put your money up on.
Yeah. Well, what has to happen here, and I want to get to President Trump and Ron DeSantis.
Now, you got to do me a favor. You have to hold. I'm 5 minutes late already. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It is Harry Hurley. I mentioned 35 minutes past the hour, more like 36 minutes past the hour, with 3 stories that you can follow on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. Join with me. Prayers now for Ernest Corsi. We can disagree later. I wrote a piece about it, and we are next hour going to have a prayer chain for Ernest. Van Drew has delivered on the FAA Tech Center. This is big time. You've got to check into it. I write all about it, and action could be coming soon regarding the...
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. 2 weather problems today, a tricky temperature forecast and the chance for thunderstorms. Our high temperature cools down to around 78 degrees, cooler than that right along the coast. Partly to mostly cloudy skies, then a chance of a shower or thunderstorm this evening, with possible fog overnight, low 59. A lingering shower early tomorrow, then increasing sunshine, turning into a nice day, high 72. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. This is an important safety.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing. EHT.
Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station.
Thank you. 41 minutes past the hour. If you want to jump in, it's our only open forum this morning. Let's make it count. 609-407-1450. Phone lines are open. Andy, time is yours.
Okay, so just to wrap up the Columbia situation, I know the Democrats are praying for another George Floyd moment. If you remember some weeks ago, the young black man who shot at the cops and then they fired like 90 some rounds.
Yes.
They were praying that was going to be their George Floyd moment. It didn't pan out. What they're hoping for is that some Arab Muslim who's protesting gets harmed or worse. And if you think the Summer of George was bad, wait till you have the Death to America chants everywhere, the whole, not just on college campuses, just everywhere. Okay, that's what they're praying for.
Sidebar. Rolling the Wayback Machine back to 2020. I remind our listeners that, which I don't think you need any reminder about, but that was a summer of love. Democrats were, fiery but mostly peaceful protests. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, bailing violent criminals out of jail so that they could commit more violent crime. Violent crime was called protests. Attacking, assaulting police officers was just fine. Defunding the police was in vogue. Taking over police stations and actually hanging banners with different names, radical names, Summer of Chaz, Summer of Love, Summer of Chop, the whole deal. Do you believe, now here's my loaded question, do you believe that this will be the Democrats' strategy again? They will create another violent America? See, I have a different take. We might either agree or have a split decision. Trump was the president then. They wanted America to be on fire. They wanted, please make it stop. Oh my God, it's so abnormal now. We got to go back to calm. So I don't think they want any of this, Andy. What do you say?
Well, I guess it depends on when we get closer to the election, and it looks that, like you say, that the truth is self-evident that Trump is going to win. But I know that there are going to be things that are going, if I say when Trump wins, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the first 6 months of his presidency.
Oh, the country's going to be, the freaks are going to go bananas.
Right. And all of these people who've been let in for the past 3.5 years, the Chinese and some of these other groups, they're going to get the phone call. They're going to start. They're going to get the email blast, and the trouble's going to begin, and it'll all get blamed on Trump.
Do you ever notice that when the Democrat wins, Republicans give them peace? They're allowed, to have none of this kind of stuff. But if Trump wins, it goes absolutely bananas.
Well, see, you and I are too busy to protest because we have jobs. We're trying to provide for.
Yeah, we got to pay for them to be able to not work.
Of course. What has to happen is the cops have to bust through the windows, throw tear gas in there, and force them all out. But so now on to Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Harry, let's pretend Donald Trump did not exist. If that were true, Ron DeSantis, would be killing it. He would have been killing it. When you add Trump to any equation, forget anything you've ever learned about arithmetic. The rules go right out the window.
Especially if you are the leading person beneath Trump. You get it the worst.
Yes, and I think what's going to happen here, and well, Trump's playing, what is it they say, other people are playing checkers and he's playing 3D chess. So is it within the realm of possibilities that Trump registers in New Jersey because he's got Bedminster? Now he's in Jersey. He's got Jeff Van Drew, too, to help him out. And then Ron's in Florida.
He could easily do that, but I think he would run with DeSantis if he wanted to and just deal with the dueling Florida residencies after the fact. I don't know that he would move. I mean, that would be smart because, after all, in fairness, DeSantis is governor, so don't make him move. You talk about taking a chance. Could you do me a favor, Ron? I want you to be my VP, but could you go move to, wherever, Arizona or wherever, and take it from there? I mean, he could do that, but in my monologue, I talked about the fact they could run, and then the Florida electors would be a big issue. And if the Democrats maintain control of the Senate, they could cause a lot of mischief by not approving DeSantis as VP, and then there would not be a VP. There'd be a vacancy to have to be taken care of. Trump would nominate DeSantis, and then the Senate, which I believe is going to be Republican anyhow, it won't even come to that because they'll just certify the election to begin with. I now believe if he wants to run with DeSantis or Marco Rubio, the Constitution is a bit in the way, but I believe it can be overcome, the problem.
Well, Harry, I'll leave you with this. So this is going to be the most important decision Donald Trump has probably ever made in his lifetime, 77 years. Because the next president, if it's his vice president, is going to have to be the standard bearer to be the next phase, the next generation of the Republican Party to continue the MAGA movement, the things that Trump has done. Now, so picture the current crop of potential vice presidential nominees, okay? They're not nominated yet, but people that we've been hearing that Trump is thinking about, the people in that mix, okay? So who can you see, if you closed your eyes, who can you see sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office addressing the nation if, God forbid, something bad happens and they have to come break in and come to the nation in prime time? Who do you see speaking to the American people from behind that desk?
Well, I'd like to see it be Ron DeSantis because he is a great executive, and I believe he could be a great president. If not Ron DeSantis, I'd be perfectly satisfied with Tim Scott or Ben Carson or Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Kristi Noem is out now. That's a pretty good group.
Well, I love Ben Carson. I love Tim Scott. I find them, they're great men. I mean, what can you say about the good doctor? I don't see the gravitas there, Harry. I mean, they're perfect for other jobs. I don't see Ben Carson walking into a room and sucking all the air out of the room like a Donald Trump.
Well, and there's nobody that's Trumpian, so you gotta forget that and then say who is competent, who can do the job. I gotta run. Tell me who you have in mind.
Well, because Ben Carson's never been an executive, and neither is Tim Scott. I like the executive part of it. I like that he ran. He's killing it in Florida, and that's he can just replicate that across the country.
By the way, I mean the polls between Trump and Biden are pretty close right now in Florida. Trump's going to win Florida, but DeSantis won Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. That is almost supernatural. So I'm with you. I said that as well. I'd like DeSantis to be the VP pick. I didn't consider it at length before because I thought, the language of the Constitution is really unambiguous about the two not being able to be from the same state. But I heard what the consequence is. It would only involve the Florida electors. Now, this could be close enough that whatever it is, 39 or whatever Florida is, where DeSantis would not have 270. Trump would, because it would not affect Trump. It would affect the VP. And so they'd have to overcome that. And I think they overcome that by winning the Senate and then problem solved. To be continued, my friend. I got to go. More of your calls right after this, including you, and I hope to get to you as well. And we have a prayer chain coming up in the 7 o'clock hour for Ernest Corsi.
Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the Morning.
Cut the BS and let's get to the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the Morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Right back to your calls, 55 minutes past the hour. Tom, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry. It's Tom.
Yeah.
I just want to have a quick statement. First, I want to say something. I just noticed on my car, on my screen, your picture's there, I guess, because your picture's on my phone. So now it's on my screen. It cracks me up there.
All right. I got my eyes on you.
Yeah. So listen, just to remind you, I was in college in the late 60s. So in 68, that was my freshman and sophomore year of college when they had the anti-war demonstration. And I find it really interesting that Columbia University was one of the few schools where the protesters took over the administration building and locked themselves up. Right now, so we're seeing history duplicate itself.
Wow.
I'm just wondering how the president of Columbia and the other administrators there, if they were such radicals involved in the 67 and 68. Then you have the Democratic Convention in 68. You have Democratic Convention coming up now. I'm just wondering what this whole thing is going to be. And there is a difference between the anti-war demonstrations of the late 60s and what you're seeing now. Those people, in the 60s did not call for the killing of other Americans as we're seeing for the killing of or displacement of our Jewish students, our Jewish citizens.
Yeah, I think, Tom, most of these university presidents, I'm not going to say all, but most of them were not even born in 1968. I was 8 years old when you were probably about 18 or 19 as a freshman in college. I was 8. So I was around during that, but very young. That president of Columbia, I've seen her. She doesn't even, she looks like she could be early 40s or something.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
I stand corrected on that. But it's interesting that, you had Berkeley on the West Coast and on the East Coast, Columbia was the hot center of the really radical demonstrations. And I can remember them taking over the building. This is before kids like myself, we didn't really have long hair at that time there. But interesting, to look at some of the stuff that happened at Columbia. And right now in the East, Columbia seems to be the most radical of the takeovers. And they set these these ultimatums, and she's not following through. She keeps on giving more and more deadlines there. So,
yeah, by the way, I'm looking at her now. I just looked her up while I'm talking to you. This Minouche Shafik. She's definitely not in her 40s. She might be, I'm guessing, I'm going to try to get her age. She might be like upper 50s. But it doesn't really matter if she wasn't of age in 1968 or she was very, very young, because this radical next generation was taught by the radical generation before them.
Right. So, and like I said, I'm in my mid-70s, 75 there. So, but it's just interesting to see how history does replicate itself, and the famous saying, if we don't learn about history, we'll live over our mistakes again. So it's really interesting. Thanks a lot and take care and doing a great job.
Thank you, Tom. We'll get in one more call real quick. You're on the air. Good morning, caller.
Yes, Trump's got a chance to make game-changing, historic inroads with the black vote this election, and I'd like to see him pick a black candidate for vice president.
Yeah, you do realize, though, that when you do pick an African-American Republican, they don't count as African-American. It's kind of sick the way the game is played. The media plays it that way. It gets played that way in general. Trump has made inroads, and I mean big. That's why they did what they did last time, to try to turn him into a racist, because if he stays at the number he's at now, which I think is at least 20%, he can't lose.
That's why
that's without having an African-American running mate. Hey, look, I think two of the top three potentially that may be his running mates are African-American. I'm good with that.
Tim Scott, and then is it Byron? There's another House of Representatives,
Byron Donalds, and I think he's a lightweight. I don't like him. I shouldn't say that. I don't like him a lot, but to me, he's not even on the list. Tim Scott, though, big time is. Let's talk again. Let's do this prayer chain for Corsi next.
WPG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you very much. What we're going to do this hour is take your phone calls. I'm going to make an opening comment, then I'm going to get a quick break in, then we're going to take your calls at 609-407-1450. Here's how we do it, and we've done this, I can't say we do it more than infrequently, but this is a pretty special thing when we dedicate an hour to forming an on-air prayer chain, and then we take your calls. And you can wish Ernest Corsi well. He's either listening or he'll listen to the podcast. He knows this is going to be happening. And it really, we have found it to be very uplifting. And I'm just such a firm believer that prayer works. And, you don't even have to know. You're praying for Ernest Corsi. You don't know exactly what's going on. And I have learned, but it's not for me to say. But the key is that prayer works. I know that prayer works even if you ask people to pray anonymously for someone. So in an article that I wrote titled Prayers Now for Atlantic City Deputy Mayor, Disagreements Later. See, we can disagree. We all hail from this area and live with each other and sometimes agree and sometimes strenuously disagree. But when the chips are down, we come through and we do the right thing. And I'm taking this opportunity to ask everyone to join with me. We did a digital prayer chain yesterday that, just because I review the numbers, thousands of people participated in that for Ernest Corsi. And now I'm asking you to join with me in an on-air prayer chain. And call me in just a few minutes at 609-407-1450. Corsi is presently dealing with an undisclosed health issue that we will not reveal here at this time. Corsi is an Atlantic County Commissioner from District 1, as well as the Deputy Mayor of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Following many decades whereby Corsi and I have had a very collegial and positive working relationship, in recent years, you're no stranger to this, it has turned sour. However, none of that matters at this time. All that matters now is for Commissioner Corsi to experience God's healing powers, skilled doctors, and for Ernest to make a full and speedy recovery. And then if we need to, we can battle again. Only then will we resume any disagreements on public policy that we may have with one another. My pledge is this: I will not speak nor write a critical word about Corsi until he recovers from his current health situation. This much I know. Corsi is a fighter, and I know that he will fight, and he will fight this with everything he's got. I have long believed in the power of prayer. It works, and we are launching this on-air prayer chain for this hour in hopes that you will call in and give your thoughts and encouragement and your prayer for Ernest Corsi. So please join with me and become a part of the positive wishes that we are sending to Ernest Corsi, his wife Leslie, and their children. I had the pleasure yesterday, briefly by text message, to chat with Ernest, and we haven't talked in a really long time. That was nice. And I got a call. I'm going to tell you right up front that I don't usually pick up my phone if some random number comes flying in. I pick up the numbers that I know, and I usually do not. I can't even tell you. I think it's like 95% of the time I don't pick up a number that I don't know. And I decided to pick up the phone yesterday. Phone rang once. I said, I don't know that number. I'm not picking that up. Then it rang a second time, and I thought, there's a lot going on. It could be anybody. I'm going to pick it up. So before the phone rang a third time, I picked it up, and a very nice young man on the other end of the phone said, "Is this Harry Hurley?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "I'm Ernest Corsi Jr." Now, we have never met, and we've never spoken. But we did yesterday, and it was very kind. It was very nice. And I told Ernest Jr. that we were praying for his father, for a full speedy recovery. And when we come back, talk about a great leadoff hitter. New Jersey Senator Vince Palestina will lead things off in our Hurley in the Morning prayer chain back right after this.
Hurley in the Morning.
We need proper representation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Waking up on the right side. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
You have the Bloomington mayor standing with anti-Israel protesters calling on police to use de-escalation tactics. Let's bring in the social workers. You have fights breaking out. This was at UCLA. They're playing the Star-Spangled Banner, and fights break out between pro-Israel and pro-Palestine protesters. At GWU, you have students standing up to anti-Israeli protesters, warning faculty are indoctrinating kids with lies and hatred. Jewish students at the University of Texas, they're now being removed as we speak. It's on Fox. Their escalating anti-Semitism is spiraling into, quote, Jew hatred. Multiple students at UT Austin said that they were approached and told to go back to Germany. What the hell is going on in our country?
From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, it's the Sean Hannity Show.
Ronald Reagan took this country from the depths of inflation in the 1970s to economic prosperity in just a few years' time. He knows a thing or two about saving a country in distress, and now you can get your hands on a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. All qualified callers who call the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, this week will get a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. Call 855-815-GOLD and get yours free while supplies last. Ronald Reagan cut taxes, cut government spending, and gave us peace through strength. Now you can celebrate this great president with a limited run half-ounce silver coin from the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco. They're a 7-time Inc. 5000 winner, #1 rated gold IRA company with over 5,000 5-star reviews. Call them today at 855-815-GOLD and get your hands on a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. Call 855-815-GOLD. That's 855-815-GOLD.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
I'm from Mullica Township.
Cape May.
I'm from Margate.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. And by the way, I want to make sure, because you never know, spoken word, if we're not clear with what we're saying, can always leave people with ambiguity. I'm not revealing what Commissioner Corsi is dealing with, because that's not for me to say. Because I'm getting bombarded. What is it? What is it? What is it? I'm not, you can write me all day. I'm not writing anybody back and getting into that. If the family wanted anybody to know, they would let you know. So as far as I'm concerned, anything I know is private. I'm not speaking about it. And I am asking folks, and you don't need to know if you're praying for cancer, if you're praying for a heart condition, if you're praying, and none of this I'm confirming. It doesn't matter. The fact that you will pray for the individual is the miracle. Senator Palestina joins us now. Senator Vince Palestina, good morning. Living proof that it doesn't, times like this, it doesn't matter what our politics are. It doesn't matter what our party registration is. This is way, way beyond anything like that.
Without a doubt. And good morning, Harry. And of course, certainly puts things in perspective when you hear someone dealing with something like this. And Ernest and I, just like you, have had some disagreements recently, but we go back 20, 25 years, and we started with my father-in-law, with Carolyn and our families, providing gifts to people in the city of Atlantic City, with Ernest, with Mayor Langford. That's how I got to know Ernest and got to know the Langford family. And so, you just reflect on the good times that you've had with people, and of course, sending prayers to him and Leslie and the entire family at this tough time for them, and, hoping that they get through whatever it is as quickly as possible, and he's back on the ground doing his thing, because he's been serving people in various capacities at Atlantic City, and now on the Freeholder Board, Commissioner Board for many, many, many years. And of course, Leslie Corsi serving as the interim county superintendent, serving children, students throughout this community. We're just sending prayers for them, hoping for a speedy recovery, and he's back working with us soon.
I agree with you. And then when he is 100% again, if there comes a time where we have to disagree, on some kind of public policy, then we do that. But that time is not now.
Definitely not now. The only thing now is prayers, thoughts, and keeping them, at the forefront of our mind. And of course, anything anyone needs to help the family get through this. I think anyone, regardless of who you are, your political affiliation, your background, we are all there. So anything they need, certainly we are all here to try to help them get through this as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Senator, in terms of your leadership position, because you're the top elected leader in our county, I want to ask you, I gave a lot of thought yesterday, and Ernest, his news really hit me hard and actually had me just reflecting on what's important in life, what's really not important. And I think sometimes we get stuck on things that aren't nearly as important as other things. And when we got this news, and I did hear about Ernest last week, although it was sketchy, and then more definitively yesterday, and that's when I did what I did, wrote the piece that we did on our digital platform, and announced that we would be doing an on-air prayer chain and all of that. This really puts things in focus, and some of that other stuff that occupies way too much of our time is not really all that important.
Without a doubt, Harry. And of course, as you know, as we spoke yesterday, your article hit me too. Because I mean, you send me, of course, a lot of the articles. I see them. I don't have the time to react to a lot of them. But that one, when I saw it, I immediately say, great article. I think it was the appropriate thing to do. Put everything aside, put everything in focus. And, we do get bogged down in personal stuff way too much. And, unfortunately, that's just part of life. But this definitely, refocuses your attention and refocuses, your perspective. And, hopefully everyone out there, regardless of who you are, will be pulling for Ernest and his family in this troubling time.
Also, too, Senator, the way that it used to be, and you're a young man, and I like to believe I'm still a young man, so this is not ancient history, but it is quite a few years ago where we didn't really care that much in this area. I remember working very, very closely with Pierre Hollingsworth, with Mayor Langford, Governor McGreevey. I've been able to work with, and you have as well, with Governor Murphy. I would love us to, some of us are still practitioners, but I would love us to get back into the business as a region, because we win when we're together. We really can only lose when we are divided. Whether it was, I'll give you an example. When Denny got everybody together and you got folks together, and there was the unity of total just disagreement with illegals being housed in Atlantic County at whether Atlantic City International Airport or anywhere. And Ernest Corsi was on board. Honestly, Eric Scheffler did a double cross, but Ernest Corsi was on board. Mayor Small was on board. Republicans were on board. That's the way we always were, Senator.
Yeah, and me too. I hope for that every day, Harry, because, I made a point at a forum we had yesterday on human services, which was wonderful. A number of our local nonprofits were there working with Commissioner Chair Kern and Commissioner Burns and Don Guardian, Claire Swift, and I, bringing everybody together with Atlantic Care, trying to figure out from a social service perspective how we can improve things for the city and the region. And, Councilwoman Dunstan was there. Councilwoman Carla Thomas from Pleasantville was there. It was a, bipartisan coalition of people just focused on what we can do here for the future. And so I hope for that every day, Harry, because as I made the point yesterday, if we can build consensus and collaboration here, I absolutely have the ability to go to Trenton and get things done. One of the things that holds us back is that you get all this fighting down here all the time. And, unfortunately, not building consensus, despite our efforts to try to communicate and collaborate, it just doesn't happen with some. So, I hope for that every day, because that is our best path to success, unquestionably, when you look at what is going on in this region right now.
Could not agree more. And we win when we do that. And when I think about, Corsi being down right now, that if we can all just remember what's important and what's not and get together, you raise such a good point, because if there are things that are right for this district, but politics gets in the way, and then your effectiveness to be able to collaborate with a governor of the opposite party or the leader of your chamber, the upper chamber of the other party, it would say, hey, we'd love to do this, but you got a lot of opposition, in your own district. Well, that short circuits everything right there.
And that's one of the things that's holding us back. And it's unfortunate, but, I think we're going to get beyond it. Hopefully, as you're doing this today, we focus on, getting Ernest healthy quickly and sending out prayers to him. And there's time for that other stuff. And as you said very eloquently in your article and on the radio, now's not the time. Let's do what you're doing today, and everybody help Ernest get well, and then let's get back to doing what we can do for the region and focusing on, the future of our area. And I think that more and more every day. That's funny. I had somebody that worked at Stockton came up to me yesterday, and of course, we were putting it on, Don Guardian, Claire Swift, and I, and Maureen Kern and June Burns. So we were putting on kind of the event. Came up to me afterwards, and she said, I never thought I would enjoy a presentation from a bunch of Republicans, but I enjoyed this.
That's fantastic. That's a great comment, because that's like the whole point right there.
Exactly. And that, she was pretty blunt, pretty plain. I mean, obviously a pretty hardcore Democrat, and said that she never thought she would be in a room with Republicans and enjoy herself, but she did.
Well, let me tell you what I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to giving Ernest all the peace and comfort that I can do in order for him to recover. And then when he comes back, he's both a friend and a worthy adversary when it comes to different issues if you're having a split decision. And actually, over the years, I've enjoyed some of the split decisions because Corsi, he's a worthy adversary if you're on the other side of an issue. He's not afraid to fight.
He is, without question. But that's the thing. If even when you have disagreements, if you're talking about legislation, you're talking about policy, and you have disagreements, that many times results in the best form of policy or legislation, because then you take into, the viewpoint of the disagreements, you incorporate it into what you're doing, and ultimately, you build consensus and things are better. And so that's what we have always been after. To me, when you have policy disagreements and you can talk about them respectfully, it makes things better. And so that's what we're always striving for.
Senator, your leadership is always appreciated, and I think on a day like today, especially so, because this is what it's all about. You're talking about somebody who's a husband, a father, a brother, and a community leader, and we need to stick together.
We do, and prayers for him and the family, and we're here. Anything we can do, I know you as well. Anything we can do to help, we're here to help. So, hopefully he's back on the playing field very, very soon.
Thanks for your friendship, Senator. Thanks for your leadership. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for the time. Thanks, Harry.
You know it. Good to talk to you. You can't ask for a better leadoff hitter than that. I'm hoping it may be at some point. I'm not going to call anybody out particularly, except maybe I'll mention that I was very, very pleased to see that Commissioner Amy Gatto, she shared the article that we wrote. She had her own beautiful comment that we would be having a prayer chain in the 7 o'clock hour, and said some very nice things, who she called my friend Ernest Corsi. And she's asking for people to pray. Maybe she will check in. You can check in if you want to send a shout out. I believe one of two things, that Ernest could be listening right now, and at the very minimum, he'll listen to the podcast when that is uploaded later today. So check in and share your thoughts. Republican, Democrat, Independent, none of that matters. We talk about that a lot, how that doesn't matter. But when you're talking about, someone's health, and what is the expression that if you have your health, you have everything, and if you don't have your health, you have nothing? I mean, it sounds like a cliche until it happens to you, or it happens to someone close to you, or you are exposed to something that has an effect on your heart. Let's get in one more call before the bottom of the hour. 609. In fact, Tom, if you don't mind, let me get the bottom of the hour break in, because if we get a gold rush of calls, I don't want to be compressed with a bunch of breaks piling up. Tom is in the inlet. He's going to be next. And it's funny, when you know somebody for almost 32 years, I almost feel like I know what Tom is going to say, but I don't. And I want to hear it next. And you can call in 609-407-1450. If you're just checking in, what are we doing? We are doing what I think only we do. We are having an on-air prayer chain. I believe in prayer. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe that the power of prayer works. We've done it many, many times, rarely for a full hour, I will tell you that. But many, many times where we will put out, a comment that, could you pray for this individual, either by name if I'm given permission, or anonymously, that someone is going in for quadruple bypass surgery. I called for a prayer chain, both digitally and on air, when my brother, not my twin, but my brother Jay, when he was having quadruple bypass surgery right here, amazingly, at Atlanticare. And he had a surgeon who was world class. I mean, if you were in New York City, this guy would be in your operating room. Just phenomenal. And the result was, I mean, sheer perfection, life-saving, right here in the Atlantic City area. It's quite amazing when you think about it. It wasn't that long ago, and we're very fortunate to have Atlantic Air. It wasn't that long ago where if you got certain news, the big C or a heart scare, you'd be racing to go at least 60 miles away, if not further. Tom, you're going to be next right after this. Don't go away. 609-407-1450. We continue our special early in the morning on-air prayer chain for Atlantic County Commissioner, Atlantic City Deputy Mayor Ernest Corsi, who is dealing with a health matter that at this point in time is undisclosed. It will be up to him and his family to decide if and when it would be disclosed, but it will not be today, and it will not be by my hand. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Hey, thank you. 32 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley, 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. Prayers now for Ernest Corsi. And yes, we can disagree later if we need to, but not now. Congressman Van Drew, this vote will take place next week. He's about to deliver permanency in terms of the FAA Tech Center in Atlantic City. And we have an update on Atlantic City as well in another area. You can check that out on the app. We'll be right back. Tom, you're next.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Some fog around South Jersey to start your Tuesday morning. I haven't seen any visibility numbers under a mile, so I don't think it'll slow you down too much. Partly to mostly cloudy skies today, high temperature reaching for 78, at least a little bit cooler than yesterday. There will be a chance of a shower or thunderstorm this evening, possible fog overnight, low 59. Lingering shower tomorrow morning, then sunshine, high 72. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's the topics that matter to me.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. If you're just joining the program, it's not typical regular programming on the Hurley in the Morning program, but it is what we do. I mean, we are a part of our communities, and we focus on what we believe are the important things. So if you're just joining our coverage, I decided yesterday that after learning about Atlantic County Commissioner Ernest Corsi having a health issue that he is dealing with, that wouldn't it be nice if we had an hour and you called in and became a part of our on-air prayer chain. Remember, you're part of the on-air prayer chain even if you don't call in. If you say a prayer for Ernest for his full recovery. So I want you to call in, but just take a moment, pray for Ernest, pray for his full recovery and all of that. And that is all part of our on-air prayer chain. And we did a digital prayer chain yesterday as well. You'll be on deck. Don't go away. Tom from the Inlet, my longtime friend.
Harry, good to talk to you. Atlantic City looks fabulous today, and it's supposed to hit close to 80 today. Harry, I want to thank you for having this hour thinking about Commissioner Corsi. I certainly pray for him, his wife, his children, and his entire family for a complete recovery. And, of course, my prayers will be with Mr. Corsi and his family for that reason.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's the absolute right way to feel. It's the right thing to say. And, it actually feels good to be nice, to be compassionate, to be caring, and, to do the right thing at the right time. Because the other stuff, I can promise you, Tom, none of that's going away. That's going to be there. That'll all be there to pick up where we left off and all of that. But just not now. I mean, more important things are happening right now.
Exactly, Harry. Very nice of you again, and God bless Mr. Corsi and his family.
609-407-1450. A few people dropped off in the last moment or so. Please check back in, and we'll get you on after the break. It's approaching 40 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program. We'll be right back. If you want to check in and participate, look, I'm not asking you to to be a philosopher, a healer, anything that you're not. Just anything that comes to your mind that you would like to share, that you think would be comforting. And we'll come right back to your calls. You will be next as soon as we come back. Don't go away. The Hurley in the Morning program continues. I want to thank Kirk Conover, and he's going to join us as well to share his thoughts. And certainly, he has worked a lot with Ernest Corsi over decades. Kirk is usually, forever and ever, our Tuesday morning 7 o'clock hour guest. And I called Kirk yesterday and said, Kirk, can you do me a favor? Could you switch to 9 o'clock today? Because I want to do an on-air prayer chain for Ernest Corsi for the 7 o'clock hour today. And of course, Brother Kirk was just, couldn't have been more cooperative about it. And so Kirk is going to be here next, and he will be with us to talk issues, national and otherwise, in the 9 o'clock hour. Chuck Malamut, about 25 minutes away. Let's get this break in, and we'll come back strong. Then we'll be uninterrupted until the top of the hour. We'll have probably about 14 minutes uninterrupted when we come back. If you'd like to check in, we do have some open phone lines at 609-407-1450. If you're just checking in, hey, what's going on? What is this? Simple. It is an on-air prayer chain for Atlantic County Commissioner, Atlantic City Deputy Mayor Ernest Corsi, who is dealing with an undisclosed health issue at this time. 609-407-1450. We'll be right back.
Only one radio station was live when President Donald Trump visited Wildwood in 2020.
It's got to be well over 12,000 people here, probably closer to 15,000 and beyond.
And now, as President Trump returns to Wildwood on Saturday, May 11th, only one radio station will be there again. WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Why are you here at President Trump's rally that's going to be starting tonight?
The greatest president in our history.
What is it about President Trump that you like?
He's here for America. He works for the American people. That's all he does is work for us.
President Donald Trump on the beach in Wildwood, Saturday afternoon, May 11th. Keep listening for exclusive interviews, live coverage, and more.
I love New Jersey, and I'm thrilled to be back right here in the Garden State.
Your official Wildwood Rally radio station is WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Get us someone in the White House that's actually going to do something.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
All right, we have a number of very important phone calls to power through in the 14 minutes that we have. It's an Ernest Corsi Palooza on the Hurley in the Morning program. Kirk Conover, who will be with us for the full 9 o'clock hour, his bonus for giving up the 7 o'clock hour this morning, taking a one-day trade into the 9 o'clock hour, is 6 incredible bonus minutes before Brian Kilmeade. So, Kirk, we've got that going for us.
Yeah, it's good.
I know.
Thank you, Harry.
It's always a pleasure to be on your program, Kirk. Your number one program.
And mine too.
So, Kirk, you let me turn it over to you because obviously, like me, like Don, who's coming up, like the great J. Edward Klein, we all have decades and decades and decades being friends with and also working with and knowing Ernest Corsi. Your thoughts? And by the way, anyone listening, this is no eulogy. This is an on-air prayer chain. Go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to ask our Lord Jesus to put your healing hands on Ernest, give his family comfort, and give his medical team the strength and wisdom to bring forth his recovery because we need him back on the playing field. I have never had a crossword with Ernest. He's always been jovial, always a smile on his face whenever he saw me, no matter what we were up to. And one little anecdote, I remember back in 2001 when we were building our home in Bungalow Park, he personally came by the job site to thank Nancy and I for investing in the neighborhood, because we were the first new home to be constructed in that neighborhood in many, many years. And I'll never forget that. So he's a terrific guy, and hope and prayers for a speedy recovery, and never let anyone underestimate the power of prayer.
That's right. We strongly concur. Kirk, beautiful, all of it. You're terrific, and I'm looking forward to our 9 o'clock hour this morning together.
You got it, Harry. I'll be there.
Yep, talk to you real soon. Thank you. That's why I'm so happy that Kirk was available to check in. That's about as beautiful as it gets. Now, I'm not going to tell the full story, but Don Hurley did something rather extraordinary a number of years ago. Corsi had a deadline. We'll tell this story in full another time. We have told it on air before, but not in years and years and years. Corsi had a deadline, and if he missed the deadline, that was that. Because he was retaliated against, and we stuck up for him on this program, on air. Don went to bat for him. Don actually did this qualifying document that you have to do by a certain date. If you miss the date, it's over. It's not like today where they rewrite the statute of limitations to go get somebody that they want to go get. It would have been Dunsville. Don came through big time. You know, there's a filing fee, the filing of the documents. It had to be in by a certain day. It was the 12th hour of the last day. Actually, it was like the 24th hour. It was the final minutes. I think it had to be in by 4 p.m. And the paperwork was done. And it ultimately benefited Ernest tremendously. So I know that Don has had a lot of interaction, obviously as a police officer for a career, and just in all the different things that were going on in Atlantic City. A lot of interaction with Ernest, and we're within a couple of years of each other. So we were even in high school at the same time. I think we're 3 years older than Corsi, 2 or 3 years. I can't remember which. Anyhow, Don, I gave a little tease about something very kind that you had done a number of years ago. You're on. Your mic is on.
Well, good morning, Harry. And I certainly want to be added to this beautiful prayer chain of people and I've been praying for Ernest since I heard your news. That was the first I'd heard about it, was your report yesterday. And so, it's funny, I go so far back with Ernest. I remember being at a city council meeting, totally unrelated to what was about to happen, when Ernest became a councilman for the first time. By the way, and they were fighting like heck, Jim Whalen was the deciding vote. That's exactly it. So it was an interesting, one of those parliamentary procedures some people weren't even aware of. Yeah, for those who don't know, if there's a tie, the mayor can break the tie. Mayor Jim Whalen and Ernest Corsi at the time, they were like cat dog. They were fighting like heck. And I'll never forget Whalen's speech. It was, I think, one of his best moments, because he said, hey, he goes, we haven't been getting along, but, Ernest has, what's right for Atlantic City in his heart, and I pick Ernest. He picked him to be the third ward councilman, Don. Oh, yeah. And, it was one of those, picks that had long ramifications, too. But, and I really give Whalen credit, too, that day, because he said the people of the third ward deserve a representative, and I'm not going to leave this thing open, because a lot of people weren't aware that the mayor breaks the tie in the event the city council is deadlocked. And some thought it failed, for that reason. And Whalen stood up and said, I'm going to break the tie, that the people in the third ward need a representative. We're not going to delay. And it was just great.
To his credit, Jim Whalen could have let that die, and he did the right thing. He didn't do that. Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, that's how government should function. And so, Ernest and I, we go so far back. He was a protege of the late Harold Mose, Harry, if you remember Harold.
Oh, yeah.
And all the involvement we had, with Atlantic City in those days. And, I always remember, it's funny, I think every time I took a call from the Commissioner Coursey, he had an eternal, he has an eternal campaign slogan, which is Coursey Cares. And I always liked that. I love that slogan. And I think it involved every one of his campaigns because, you never...
Well, he'd be shocked to learn how many times we would just joke about that off air even. If Coursey came up, we'd say, hey, Coursey Cares.
Exactly. And so that's how I would answer the phone. Every time he would call me, I wouldn't say hello. I would say, Coursey Cares. And then we would get into whatever was happening. But, so I want to be among those, Harry. I'm praying for Ernest. He's a tough guy. He's a fighter. And the thing I love about Ernest is a guy you can fight with. And when I say I don't mean physically fight, but on issues. And when it's over, you shake hands. And I like that. That doesn't happen much anymore. And that's really the way it should be. And I remember we had a rough and tumble campaign with George Tibbett. Ernest was making a strong run at George. George ran a very, very great campaign. And when it was all over, we all shook hands. And just the way it should be.
And the way that it always was. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to that.
And these knockdowns, they remind you, what's important in life. Some of the petty politics. Really, it's not important. We're not praying about that today. We're praying for a good man's health. And so for himself and his family, and I know Ernest's family. I've watched his children grow up.
Because you worked in Atlantic City for decades. I didn't know Ernest Coursey Jr. And we'd never spoken until yesterday. And what a fine young man!
Oh yeah, and I watched him grow up through the years. So as a beautiful young man, and so I just like I said, Harry, I know you're up against the clock, but my wife and I, we've been praying for Ernest. We will continue to pray for him until he's through whatever this is, Harry. I don't know what's happening, but whatever it is, Ernest, he's got that fight in his soul, and we'll be back on the playing field with him soon. I feel that, and I'll pray for that.
Good to take your call, Don. Glad you checked in. By the way, I meant what I said. You submitted. We'll talk about it another time when Ernest is feeling better. But you submitted paperwork on his behalf that made it possible for him to recover.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that, too, because that was one of those, you talk about just a stroke of luck. It was a look at the calendar, Harry, and I did the math, and it just, I broke it down, and sure enough, we made it. We did it at 4:45 that day. I think it was a Friday, to be sure, and got it in. It was due at 5 o'clock p.m., and we got it in at 4:45. That's a true story.
I know. Yeah. Good job.
So all the best, Ernest. I hope if you're not listening, I hope you hear this, but I'll be reaching out to Ernest myself, Harry. So take good care, everybody, and Ernest, you hang in, buddy.
Good call. This has been great, and we're going to take another call right now. I lost J. Edward Klein. He was there, and then he was gone, but he did write me, send a prayer for Ernest from Ed Klein, dear friend. Ed, if you have a chance, we only have about 3 minutes. I hope you could call right back in because I think it's one thing for me to read it. It's another thing for you to say it. Full number 9.
Hey, Harry. Yeah, Ernie and I have been going back and forth for years, but one of the honors I had being an assemblyman was I was able to swear him in front of his whole family for city council. That was pretty cool, And I served with many of their members of their family, so it's a great family, as you know. I mean, I don't know was his dad still alive? I mean, he's in his 90s.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know for sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know if his dad's still alive, but I knew he was in his 90s.
Wow.
So, all the prayers to Ernie and Leslie, he's a tough guy, and that's for sure, and he never backs down on the fight. That's one thing I know about Coursey. And his heart is with the city. There's no doubt about it. So hang in there, Ernest. Good luck, and get well soon, buddy.
Tom, good to talk to you. Have a great day, my friend.
See you.
Bye now. 2-minute drill. Just the perfect amount of calls to take and go through the entire hour. Really, really good stuff. If you're just joining the program, let me share with you that we took the opportunity yesterday on the digital platform of WPG to extend a digital on-air prayer chain, and we did so this morning on an on-air prayer chain. And closing out our hour, the former Mayor Brigantine, former New Jersey Assemblyman, former Chairman of the Atlantic County Board of Chosen Freeholders, et al., and that's just some of his background, J. Edward Klein. Eddie, welcome.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay, Ernest Corsi, naturally, you named all the positions that I held, and Ernest would come to see me for something all the time, and we've always been good friends, always worked together and helped each other, so he's a good guy, and I wish him the best. And real quick, my best story, I walk out in front of my construction company building to get the mail out of the mailbox, and Corsi pulls up, gets out of the truck. Klein, I got to talk to you. You ain't hiring enough black folks. I said, yes, I am. And as I'm saying that, 4 trucks pull up to pull in the yard to get gas, and everybody in all the trucks are black. Of course, we started laughing like heck.
I love it. Eddie, let me jump because I want to share what my wife wrote. She's my secret weapon, and she wrote, this is Margie, Ernest. Dearest Lord, please cover our friend Ernest with your love and your healing. May his family be strengthened by knowing that we care and are praying for him, and that so many of us are sending our thoughts for health and full recovery. My secret weapon, my wife Margie. Eddie, thank you. Until we meet again, Ed, Chuck Malamut is next.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. It's 7 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is the managing director, leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office right down the road here from Broadcast Center. We're on the same side of the street and just a few blocks apart on Tilton Road. 609-383-2010 is Chuck's phone number. You can reach Chuck and Frank and Mike, Kristen and Lauren, wonderful team, full service team that will be very, very pleased to help you with everything from retirement planning to college building to vacation planning, you name it. And this program is presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, top of the morning, my good friend.
Good morning, Harry. How are you today?
Extraordinarily well, and very happy that it's our time together because there's obviously a whole lot that's going on. I turn it over to you for your market update.
So, Harry, before we get started, I wanted to send out our best wishes and get well for Ernest Corsi and his family. It's just life is a struggle, and hopefully, all goes well, with Ernest and his crew.
That's awesome, Chuck. Thanks for that. That's good. That's a good starting point. Time is yours.
So, Harry, after 3 straight weekly declines, equities last week were higher, pretty significantly. The S&P was up almost 2.7%, and a lot of this was attributed to what was happening with corporate earnings, especially earnings that had been announced from the big technology company names. Best sectors for the week, tech up over 5%, consumer discretionary up 3.5%. Worst sectors were materials, and they were actually up almost 0.75%, and energy, which was up 0.75% as well. So all in all, a really good week, for the markets. And it came, you got to that point where you felt very, very uncomfortable with respect to what was happening with the market. And lo and behold, as it turns out, we were heading back in the right direction as we closed out on Friday. Then we had a little bit of a follow-through yesterday as well. And it looks like today, obviously being, pre-market, and earnings are coming fast and furious. And as a result, today looks like we're going to probably get off to a little bit of a slower start. But anything can happen in a relatively, short period of time here in the markets.
Chuck, let me give you an analogy, and it's not perfect, but I'm a layperson, and I know you're an expert. But I was thinking about what was going on, and I thought about, and of course we had an earthquake here, and the other day we had a 2.9, we had a 4.8 on the Richter scale, and then a 2.9 the other day, which was considered an earthquake. It was considered aftershocks from the earthquake. Is that a fair analogy, that when the markets had to grapple with a changing environment, that suddenly what looked like certain rate decreases were not going to be possible, and we received some news, GDP and some other news? Was it kind of like an earthquake, and then the markets sort of righted, and now showing resilience and coming back? How would you describe the event and the aftershocks?
Well, Harry, look, we had the anticipation as we got into the beginning of 2024 that the Fed was going to cut 6 times. That obviously is not materialized. It looks as if cuts have been pushed out, maybe June, maybe September, maybe November. But the market, and we'll get into this a little bit later in our discussion today, has been rather resilient, but not susceptible to potential issues down the road. So, as good as the week was that we did have, year to date, the S&P is up 7.4%, the NASDAQ up 6.3%, the Dow up 2%. So, a lot has gone on, under the surface, so to speak, to get to those returns. And while they seem, we're only at the end of April, they are very, very respectable. Now,
yeah, Chuck, let me follow up on that for a quick second. I've been giving thought to why certain numbers that you talk about sound good and people yet don't feel good. These are like separate tracks going at the same time, maybe in different directions. I don't know exactly how to word that, but I sort of know what I mean. But when if you go man on the street and you ask people how are they feeling, they're going to say not very good. Everything costs way too much. Are these earnings that are trending above expectations, are they up because everything costs so darn much? So at the same time earnings can be up, people might not feel good about things?
Well, Harry, yeah, you hit it right. Earnings are up. Companies have done a very good job being able to control their expenses in light of lighter revenue. And I think that's what you're seeing now in the markets. All of us obviously, go to the store, we eat out, and those prices are, I don't want to use the phrase through the roof, but it's very, 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 very expensive right now.
And energy is very expensive right now.
Yeah, so speaking of which, the year-to-date, the best performing sectors, and they have changed positions here a little bit over the last month or so.
communication services, energy, and financials up anywhere from 9 to 17%. And then what's not working on the flip side, consumer discretionary, healthcare, and real estate. And of all the sectors within the S&P 500, the only negative sector right now, Harry, year to date, happens to be real estate, down over 8%.
And no surprise.
And I think a lot of that is attributable to what's happening in the bond market. We had a little bit of reprieve as we got to the fourth quarter of 2023. Rates dropped, bonds rallied to the point of having a very, very small positive gain in fixed income for the year 2023. 2022, 2021, we're losing years in the bond market, and right now, year to date, the 10-year Treasury, Harry, is down 5%, causing a fair amount of stress in industries that are interest rate sensitive, like real estate. And it's not so much individual residential real estate. I know that you and Jim are always looking at Zillow on a comparative basis. I think, obviously to educate your listening audience, but a lot in fun, we'll call it. But, if you look at the commercial side, things aren't so wonderful right now in the real estate world.
I know. For a lot of reasons. Inventory, rates are high. It's a real double whammy. It's tough. It's tough right now.
It is, Harry.
Well, let's get our break in. If you have more on that, time is yours as soon as we come back. If not, we'll continue on today's ambitious agenda. We've got a lot to cover with Chuck Malamut. Reminder for all of your financial planning needs, call 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. We'll be right back in just a little bit. Don't go away.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's well-balanced conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
It's a woke society, and I'm fed up with it.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. We're back 20 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues. He is talking all about your financial matters. Chuck, you were saying.
Hey, Harry, right before the break, you had started to mention earnings, the first quarter earnings. So let's get into that for a second. So the early observations that we're seeing in earnings with respect to earnings per share, they are trending above expectations, but you are seeing a fair amount of revenue shortfalls. And that's a little more prevalent than we usually see. And I think a lot of that goes back to, what you just talked about before we got to the break. And that's the fact that, people are getting very, very stretched right now. Yeah. And, there's been a lot of discussion about the Magnificent Seven. We always hear about that and how successful things were in the market, in the Magnificent Seven in particular in 2023. I think, Harry, we're seeing it to be stretched here somewhat, and the expectations, believe it or not, profits for the Magnificent Seven are forecast to increase, Harry, 47% in the first quarter of this year from a year ago, and that obviously exceeds the overall S&P 500, which has about a 2% expected earnings growth. Last week, 3 of the 4 companies, from that group did report, Tesla, Alphabet, and Microsoft. Alphabet was a standout. It exceeded expectations. And on the flip side, shares of Meta or Facebook dipped. Company delivered a lighter than expected revenue forecast, something we just chatted about, and also looked at targeting higher capital spending to support this AI initiative. So I think something we need to be careful about as we look into the remainder of this year, 2024.
Chuck, let's talk about first quarter GDP, because 1.6%, that's not going to get it done. That certainly does not inspire confidence.
No, Harry. So, U.S. economic growth has been running above the potential of around 2% for the previous 6 quarters, but that positive streak was broken, earlier this year, 2024. The advanced estimate of first quarter GDP looks like growth slowed to about 1.6% from a 3.4% annualized pace, missing a lot of consensus expectations. And as a result of that, we did have a fair amount of angst a couple days last week, even though the market was higher. And a lot of this downshift was as a result of the consumer. Consumption was still solid, but I think you continue to see consumers sort of take their purchases and reduce them, or when they do this level setting, they're actually buying lower quality, Harry, just to be able to survive. Spending on durable goods fell, big ticket items, that was taking some of the, responsible for some of the fatigue. And households, have and continue to feel the weight of these higher interest rates. But Harry, interestingly enough, services consumption did grow at its fastest pace in 2.5 years, suggesting that the consumer is not tapped out as of yet. But I think it's something we need to be very, very mindful of here as we get into the remainder of this year.
Yeah, very important comment for your program that you just made. And inflation is going to basically almost guarantee that rates are going to stay higher for longer, doesn't it?
Well, Harry, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation, it's often referred to as PCE, which is the Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, or PCA. That's the last key data point on prices that are released, during every month, and this being the past the month of March. And again, it confirmed the message, delivered by CPI that we oftentimes talk about when we're together just a couple weeks ago. The progress towards the 2% target that the Fed has in place stalled in the first quarter. And the Fed, Harry, I think is, pretty dead set on trying to get there. And you have a resilient economy for the most part. Policymakers, I think on a go-forward basis are going to continue to be patient, with rate cuts, unless, of course, you see some sort of major crisis, either in our country or, throughout the world. It sort of checks down the economy in its entirety and forces the Fed to make a move sooner than they would when they would want to.
I'm going to make a geopolitical comment, and I'm being very precise about that because we don't talk politics on the Chuck Malamut program, but we do talk geopolitics because it has a direct impact. You can't ignore an election year. You can't ignore the impact on the markets. You can't ignore a presidential election year in particular, because when you do what Chuck does and you analyze years and years and years of data, there are things that happen during presidential election years. I remember this like it was yesterday, Chuck, when Obama was president and we were growing in the 1 percentile GDP, and it was terrible. But the media came up with the term new normal, and that was almost like a trigger for me. And you even used it a couple times to jazz me up on your show. Hey, it's the new normal, Harry. 1% is not new normal. 1% is never new normal. But to protect Obama, they said that 1% was our new normal. I said, well, you know what? We're going to get a new president. Give us a new president, and we'll go right back to 3%, 4% and beyond. And, Chuck, that's exactly what happened. Now we're back into the new normal, it seems.
Well, Harry, it does seem that way. And, the question is this temporary? I mean, it always, inflation is a cyclical, and at times, as you know, just several years ago, rates were lower, inflation was lower, and then obviously we got the COVID, and that unto itself created a whole different set of problems. And as we move into the latter part of 24, with this being an election year, chances are that I think you're going to see, lower rates, whether it's, right at the election, before or after the election, as we get into 2025. But in spite of that all, Harry, the market still seems to be rather resilient.
Are we looking at probably only one rate cut before the election?
I've heard and I've read, Harry, anywhere from 1 to 3.
And are rate cuts coming even if market conditions would not typically call for that?
That I'm not sure about, Harry. I mean, you think about it. I mean, when we've talked about this before, and every day we get closer and closer to that first Tuesday in November.
Yeah,
and the Fed has always put themselves out to being
apolitical,
not involved in politics.
Yeah,
and I would find it rather ironic that if we get all the way through the summer, and then lo and behold, we get a rate cut.
Well, here's my prediction. I predict that typical market forces would not call for a rate cut based on what I believe is going to transpire, but we're going to get a rate cut anyhow. I'm going to make a guarantee on the Malamut program.
Well, Harry, up until just a couple of weeks ago, Chairman Powell was pretty comfortable in saying that, rates were not, we're going to have a number of rate cuts. And then obviously all the inflation related data came during the month of March. And you think about it, starting with CPI, third consecutive month higher than expectations, and kind of boxes the Fed in saying, look, how can we cut rates with inflation where it is? So, all eyes again on CPI as we kind of, turn the corner as we get into April. But Harry, great question. I wish I could give you that answer.
Good stuff. We're going to be right back. It's exactly hit the mark right on the head there. It's exactly 30 minutes past the hour. Much more important content with Chuck Malamut. When we come back, we're going to see if PMIs and what they could foretell in terms of growth or not in America. With Chuck Malamut, we continue. For all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010. The Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Back with Chuck right after this. I am Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Your President Trump Wildwood Rally radio station.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It is, and I'm Harry Hurley with Chuck Malamut. I have 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. Prayers now for Ernest Corsi. We can disagree later if we have to. Congressman Van Drew really delivering big time on the Hughes FAA Tech Center. I'm talking about the word permanent is involved in a big way, and action could come soon regarding the Atlantic City school superintendent.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. 2 weather problems today, a tricky temperature forecast and the chance for thunderstorms. Our high temperature cools down to around 78 degrees, cooler than that right along the coast. Partly to mostly cloudy skies, then a chance of a shower or thunderstorm this evening, with possible fog overnight, low 59. A lingering shower early tomorrow, then increasing sunshine, turning into a nice day, high 72. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. This is an important safety.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
Mays Landing.
I'm from Mullica Township.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG.
Each state.
Ocean City.
Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Play WPG. Remember that. 35 minutes past the hour, flying by with Chuck Malamut, as it always does. So, Chuck, do PMIs foretell anything relative to growth one way or the other?
Well, Harry, actually it does. And as it turned out, PMI that was just released last week suggests the growth, and again, in our country, might be slowing. The manufacturing index declined to 49.9%. It was at 51.9. The expectations were at 52. And, services PMI also disappointed, and that came in at 50.9. Expectations looked like it was going to improve from 51.7 to 52. So, again, another side of the economy that is slowing down. So when you kind of put it all in perspective, people oftentimes, and you said if you hold the man on the street, things aren't so great right now, Harry.
No,
for the consumer, but they continue to spend, and as a result of that, the consumer right now, Harry.
Chuck, we have a government that deficit spends, and we have many consumers who right now are deficit spending.
So, Harry, think about this for a second.
Do you agree with that statement?
I do agree. Yeah, and that kind of gets me to back. Let's talk about the consumer here. So all the savings that were set aside during COVID, they pretty much
they're gone.
Have been spent or gone. There's not a lot that's out there right now that can support consumption. Lending standards are really tight. Borrowing costs are on the rise. Income growth are arguably the largest driver of consumer growth has continued to decelerate. And any forward-looking indicators suggest there's further weakness ahead. So, I know that, when you travel, the airlines, are still, these planes still seem to be full for the most part, but you're starting to see a cut in schedule. Not to talk about any particular company, but as you know, when you talked about it, Spirit just recently announced that they are eliminating the Atlantic City crew base, as it's referred to.
That's right.
And you're starting to see reductions in schedules. So,
that in your estimation, it's at least my considered opinion as a layperson that the government getting in the way of a merger that I didn't see as really disproportionate to what would usually be a deal that should be able to happen. Not being able to do that merger had Spirit make a lot of decisions that I believe otherwise would not have happened.
Harry, you're absolutely right about that. I don't, and no disrespect to to JetBlue or to Spirit, a very in terms of size, very, very. I don't want to say insignificant, but let's use the word not terribly significant, if that makes any sense.
Right, but it was very significant to them because their entire business model was predicated upon the merger, the additional inventory, the additional crews that they would have had, Now they're looking at, I remember it because I wrote an article about this, not just the crew base, the Atlantic City crew base that is going to be gone, but also plane inventory delayed now into later in the future. And you never know with that kind of thing that's forecasts at this point. We know they're not accepting planes in years that they were going to, with the expectation that it will be in the future. And it wasn't that far distant future, but it was, a few years, removed in some cases, more than a year in others. Who knows what that means? So this really matters to our region. I know we're doing a financial show. It certainly matters to the company, but it really matters to this region. There are a lot of people that rely on Spirit Air that every year travel to Florida and to South Carolina and to all the Caribbean, even all these different places that Spirit Air flies to. This was not good news for our region, Chuck.
No, Harry, it was not, and I don't want to say those that were in the know were taken by surprise, only because this merger was incredibly and strategically important.
Yeah.
For Spirit, and it's it wasn't the first go around. If you remember, there was other mergers discussed.
Correct.
Frontier that did not materialize. So, as a result of all of that, now you have an airline that unfortunately, is struggling, and we as the local recipients of be able to lead from ACY are going to continue to have.
Yeah. Chuck, see if you agree with this. I'm not trying to make you agree with me, but you'll agree with you. But I agree with me. Elections matter. We won't get into politics. But if you have a more business-friendly administration, I think that merger would have went through without a hitch.
Harry, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I mean, when you think about the Frontier deal not being done because the JetBlue was a better transaction.
I mean, Chuck, to be totally candid, we have an administration that's very adverse to this industry, to the energy industry. They're just flat out adverse. Look at this latest thing that's coming out. Now, I travel a bit. You travel more than I do. I travel a little bit. I would say maybe 5-6 times a year I'm on a flight, and sometimes the flight is late. They have a deal now where airlines are going to have to make full refunds if the flight is more than 3 hours late. I think there's a lot of airlines that can't afford that rule.
Harry, I agree with you. And the problem, look, I'm not defending the airline.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that they cannot control, particularly the weather.
Exactly. That's crazy to give them this kind of right. You're right about that. And look, you get pilots that are timed out. You get crews that they're short. It's easy. It's easy for a flight these days, so with supply and demand, to be 3 hours or more late, and that is an automatic refund. Look, I don't mind it. That gives you options as the consumer, but I want Spirit Air to be able to exist because I'd much rather fly from ACY than have to go to Philadelphia or Newark or, wherever. So, this stuff matters, Chuck.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's really, I don't want to use the word devastating, but it's certainly, that airline right now has taken a number of steps backwards. I know we all kind of, I don't want to say make fun of Spirit, because Spirit is what it is. I mean, you know what you're getting, but they've been relatively good with their on-time scheduling, and unfortunately, the government came in and said, "No, we're not going to allow this deal." And you think about it, it's not just the airlines, Harry. Any transaction, it seems, potential transaction, it seems as if the government almost immediately says, no, we're putting the brakes on this deal.
Yeah, they're hurting. They're hurting business and industry. It's not good.
Yeah.
And Chuck, at the same time, and it goes right back to your agenda, the middle class is hurting. The middle class is showing fatigue. Tell us.
Well, Harry, you think about it. The middle class right now is very, very pivotal, with respect to consumption. And they're starting to see, some fatigue with respect to their earnings or inability to have enough income. And again, we are seeing some joblessness along the way. I mean, not everyone is gainfully employed.
No, and we have people that have multiple part-time jobs, and it's all part of this phenomenon, these spectacular numbers that don't seem to have any correlation to reality. Chuck, the time is yours when we come back. Beyond this topic, when we come back, we'll be talking about the current state, one of my favorite topics, the current state of student loan debt. It is a disaster what's going on, just unbelievably. Back with Chuck Malamut, a reminder for all of your financial planning needs. Call 609-383-2010. On a special day and time, Kirk Conover, instead of preceding Chuck Malamut, will immediately follow Chuck Malamut. I don't think that's ever happened in all these decades that we've all been doing this together. I don't know that Kirk has ever immediately followed. In fact, I'll stick my neck out. I've hosted every one. It's never happened. It's always Chuck. It's always Kirk, then Chuck. We'll be back. Don't go away. It is Hurley in the Morning.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I listen every morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
Biden is going to drive this country into the ground.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. It's Hurley in the Morning with Chuck Malamut at 49 minutes past the hour. Chuck, the current state of student loan debt at so many levels, the fact that it's over $1 trillion, the fact that the American president continues, it seems to me, to defy the edict, the decision of the United States Supreme Court, and keeps just pedal to the metal, picking winners and losers. And some people, if you're a nurse, if you're a public employee, if you're some other winner, if you work for a nonprofit, they're picking winners and losers, and then the rest of us have to pay off other people's college loans. It is both disconcerting and maddening.
Harry, as you just put it so well, student debt has risen to the forefront of national political discourse. Student debt right now, Harry, consists of over 9% of total household debt. It stands only second, the second largest category of consumer debt, trailing only behind mortgages.
Wow.
As we got to the end of last year, of fiscal year 2023, and I mean, I know we talk about this, but every time I see it, it just, your stomach begins to churn. The total outstanding student loan debt was over $1.7 trillion, and it impacts 40 million unique loan recipients. And so when you look at that, and it underscores the significant financial burden that education financing places on a countless number of Americans due to these soaring costs of tuition. So I know we talk about it and sort of ad nauseum, don't really get an answer, but wouldn't you think, or maybe the universities don't care, are they ever going to think about controlling these, runaway freight train costs?
No, only when the economies of scale change. As of right now, think about it. Why would they change a single thing that they do? They raise their tuition rates precipitously, meal plan rates, the whole shebang. They know that the government funding that they receive, unless they're private, will continue. They know they can get away with it. They have these incredible increases that go into effect. I guarantee you, if two operations guys like you and I, Chuck, if we could get their books, could you imagine if you could get the books for a couple of days, the cuts that you would be able to make because they are bloated, because of what they pay, and they just know that it's all going to be good because you can get those loans and you can pay Columbia $65,000 a year and up. I mean, it is crazy what's going on. Crazy.
Well,
and then how about this? How about you decide, you know what? College isn't for me. I'm going to start my own business. You get a loan, you get a truck, Chuck's, whatever, finishing man, Chuck, the carpenter, and you got all your tools, you got loans out the yin yang on all of that, and you get told you're paying off other people's college loans. That is not right, Chuck.
Harry, look, certainly very discouraging. And again, we don't talk politics during our time together.
And that's not politics. That's real. That's happening.
But it's painfully obvious, as you mentioned, picking winners and losers. And, with respect to, assistance from the federal government.
See, you know me. I love nurses. My daughter is a nurse. My son-in-law is a nurse practitioner. I love nurses. My mother-in-law was a nurse for 50 years. Margie's sister's a nurse. I love nurses. But nurses and other public employees, they get everything paid? Who makes those rules?
Well, the rules are made by those that want to make the rules and are able to make the rules.
Yeah, and they take care of who they want to take care of. Hey, if you're a public employee, I don't know what being a public employee means that you get, I love public employees and I love the ones that work really hard. I don't like the bums that get over and don't work hard, but I love the ones that work really hard. But so's everybody else out there in the private sector, and there's no relief coming their way.
No, there's not. And as a result of that, it's absolutely crazy. So it's anybody's guess. I mean, as to where this thing goes. So, Harry, I wish I had the answer.
Now, Chuck, we have one bit of good news with real estate because you talked about real estate down in general. We know that existing home sales are down. This doesn't shock me. New home sales better than expected because obviously if they're building the new homes, they need the inventory and they're selling the inventory. So that doesn't shock me. But in the midst of high rates, high interest rates, low inventory of existing homes, the new home sales are better than we thought they would be, correct?
Harry, yeah, it kind of goes sort of directly opposite as to what we just sort of chatted about. Most recently, the U.S. new home month over month. In the month of March, the annual pace is just shy of 700,000. And as a result of that, a lot stronger than anyone had expected. March pending home sales were up about 3.4% from February. So, again, this sort of goes polar opposite to everything that's going on in the marketplace, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. And I appreciate the answer. So what's the IMF doing, Chuck?
So, Harry, what what happened last week, the IMF actually came out and they upgraded the 2024 global outlook, saying it appears that the world is headed towards this elusive soft landing. They're predicting a 3.2% global expansion this year and next, and they see global inflation falling to less than 6%, down from 7% a year ago, and that really is different than what was just reported most recently by with all these inflation numbers. I guess if I were to use the word confused, Harry, I'm going to use the word confused, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, you deserve to be. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, so that would leave one confused. We have never, ever on the Malamut Show ever talked about a meme, the meme culture. This made it to today's agenda. Do tell.
So, Harry, as you know, just most recently, tucked away in that $95 billion foreign aid package aimed at supporting some of our allies, there was an ultimatum given to TikTok by their parent company, ByteDance. They have to sell the company within 200, I think, 60 days or so. And there's obviously a lot of unrest and a lot of people, like TikTok and use TikTok. And I'm not sure where this is going to go. Is this going to actually be able to get done?
Well, the music's playing us off the stage. I'll tell you what I'm not impressed with, though. I'm not impressed. And again, it's not politics. This is a fact. I'm not impressed with our current administration that takes the public position that Americans should not be on TikTok, that it's a threat, that it's a Chinese spy tool, and yet the president's campaign is actively participating on TikTok. That doesn't square with me.
Doesn't make sense, Harry. Doesn't make sense.
No, sir. No. Chuck Malamut, for all of your financial planning needs, call 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. Chuck, about 10 seconds, closing comment.
Harry, you have a great day, and I'll catch up with you live next week in person.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Chuck.
All right, buddy.
Great job.
Take care.
See you, Chuck.
Bye-bye.
Safe travels. We'll be back. Kirk Conover following Chuck Malamut next. It's the fourth quarter. Yippee! Don't go away. It's Hurley in the Morning.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
HOF.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation.
Say it again.
Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield. It's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Say that twice next time. I love
Talk
it.
Radio app.
We're back, approaching 7 minutes past the hour. This portion of Hurley in the Morning brought to us in part by Congress Hall, my favorite hotel in Cape May County. Presidents, musicians, artists, dignitaries, esteemed guests for more than 200 years since 1816. Wow. Have been enjoying Congress Hall. It is the grandest of them all in Cape May, New Jersey, an icon of relaxed elegance, warm hospitality, and generations of travelers have enjoyed it since 1816. There's a wonderful classic American charm. The minute you walk through the door, you'll see the beautiful marble-floored lobby. Curtis Bashaw literally could not have done better than what he's done with Congress Hall. He and his sister and their team, they have such an eye. Whenever they do, it's not even like, you think about the term remodel. They don't do remodels. I mean, they do full-blown restorations so that it's as it would have been in 1816. It's amazing. The American flags line the history hallway, the spacious ocean view, guest rooms and suites. As Margie Hurley says so aptly, an overnight stay at Congress Hall is like a vacation, and it's also like stepping into your own little cottage by the sea. They pair with amenities of a world-class resort, and you have an incredible experience. There is the Congress Hall Sea Spa, which is awesome. There's the Blue Pig Tavern with farm fresh favorites. You have the Brown Room, which is a great lounge. And then, of course, the Boiler Room with the wood-fired stove and the incredible, and they have a variety of different styles. The pizza, I mean, people go there to get the pizza. I'm not kidding you. It's that good. Dancing in the Boiler Room as well. Congress Hall has it all. And during spring, a midweek stay means less crowds and a better rate. You can book your stay at caperesorts.com/Congress Hall. Congress Hall, America's first seaside resort. Ladies and gentlemen, a special time, and I love talking about program firsts. I'm not aware that Kirk Conover has ever followed in the 9 o'clock hour on it. He's done the 9 o'clock hour many times, I'm sure, but not the 9 o'clock hour on a Tuesday following Chuck Malamut, unless you remember something that I've forgotten, Kirk.
No, I don't think I've ever followed Chuck.
I think that is indeed a fact, which is kind of neat because sometimes, not sometimes, oftentimes, Chuck will mention, as you and Kirk were talking about, and then it brings some of our dialogue into his hour. Now, is there anything that he said that you can bring into your hour plus?
Well, you were talking about the economy and the 1.6% GDP.
Yep.
And we're back to the Obama years, the new normal, and that is a disturbing trend. You have to have 2.5% to 3% growth just to keep up with population growth and keep the prosperity moving for that population growth. And it's just falling apart. There's a lot of rough edges to the economy. They keep trying to say that, the economy's good and all this, but the perception of the working families, the middle class out there, is that the economy's not that great. And it shows up in consumer spending. And although the consumer spending's increasing, a lot of that increase is due to the fact that prices are just higher.
Yep.
They are not spending on the big ticket items because higher interest rates. Think about what how much it would take out of your paycheck every week, for a car loan.
Oh, yeah.
These interest rates.
Well, that's the key. You if you need a new car, you are paying so much more. I remember, fortunately, I don't have a car payment, but when I had a car payment, it was 1.99%. I actually felt, Kirk, I know 2% is not free money, but I almost felt like I had free money.
Yeah.
Not now. Now you're looking at mortgage rates and I'll tell you what has to be fixed, and it can be fixed, but we have to go back to free markets. We have to go back to the way that it was. What's going to be ironic here, Obama and the media, the way they said 1% GDP is the new norm, not that they were a problem, not that the Obama policies were a problem. We just had to accept that we can't grow at 3% and 4% and 5% anymore. Well, you did then, I did then. We rejected that. I said, change the president and we'll be right back to the old normal, not the new normal that they tried to explain away that it's not a problem. And this particular president, who was part of that last morass, that mess, this is even worse than then. But it will show, though, that if the American people make a course correction this November 5th, that we will get it back to where it won't be 1.6% GDP and we won't have 7+% mortgage rates and even higher for an auto loan, and look at the credit card rates and all this. This is a matter of getting back to free market philosophy of governance.
Free markets, controlling of government spending.
Yes.
And, once you start controlling government spending and return to the free markets and get away from this the mandates for this climate control thing, which is,
Kirk, did you see the G7? I meant to mention this to Chuck. The G7 voted yesterday to end coal by the year 2035.
It's absolutely insane.
It is total insanity. It's total. Yeah. And that's the United Kingdom championing that, and others, of course. Now, Biden's in on that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So think about that. Think about what percentage of electricity is coal-fired, and imagine that 11 years from now, actually less, 11 years from now or less, coal would be outlawed in the world. Come on. You think China is going to shut down a single coal plant?
And neither is India.
Correct. But these stupid idiots will.
And it really is, as we've talked before, energy is the abundance that the United States has always had, which powered us from a developing country, agrarian country, into the greatest industrial and prosperous country in the world. It was powered by the fact we had abundant energy of all types. We had oil, we had coal, and then later on natural gas, and then we developed nuclear. And all these climate activists that say, shut down coal, shut down nuclear, they're just cementing a future if it goes through. I don't think it'll ever go through the way they think it's going to go through.
Well, Trump will stop it.
Yeah, reality will take shape. But if they ever did get their way, they would impoverish the world. And impoverished people don't care about the environment. They care about everyday survival. They'll cut down every tree in the woods to heat their house.
Kirk, I want to point out, and then we'll get our break in. You know this, but I want our audience to be clear on this. China opens 2 coal power plants every week of every year. How do you like that? How do you like that? Now they're on pace for 300. That's even more. But I mean, come on. And then we're gonna not have coal in 2035. They didn't say 3035. They're talking about 11 years from now.
Yeah, and I remember back. Probably was when Obama and Biden were campaigning the first time, 2008. Joe was famous for saying, "Oh, we can have clean coal. We can have clean coal."
But keep in mind, Obama was saying simultaneously, "Well, you can open up a coal plant, but we're going to bankrupt you." Right. I mean, so they were disjointed as can be. That was usual stupid Joe that would say the darndest things. We'll be right back 16 minutes past the hour with Kirk Conover. We're going to talk economics. We'll talk a bunch of stuff this hour plus, and we'll take you right to Brian Kilmeade at 6 minutes past the top of the next hour. Don't forget the digital platform of WPG Talk Radio, 95.5. We're already twice published today, and a lot of important content there, and it pairs very, very well with the audio side of things. And remember, in the afternoon, when the podcast is uploaded, you can download it on the app. That's the only place you can get the podcast, is on the app. You can listen to WPG Talk Radio 95.5 from any page of WPGTalkRadio.com. Upper right-hand corner, you'll see the Listen Live speed button, but the only place to listen to the podcast, and I believe it's the second button, left to right, second button on the app is the podcast. Check it out.
Hurley in the morning.
If you really want to know what's happening in Atlantic City, it's Harry Hurley every single morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
We need to do what's best for this country.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
I guess what he's saying is America first. You have tuned in wisely to WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Thank you for that. And we are your President Trump Wildwood Rally radio station. and we'll be keeping you posted in terms of all of that. I can tell you briefly that the doors are going to open in the 11 a.m. to 12 noon-ish hour. The rally will begin at 5 p.m., and as we did 4 years ago, we're going to be providing a lot of coverage, both digitally and otherwise. Kirk, I want to talk NFL for a second. I surveyed the temperature of our listeners and our readers on my social media page relative to this Guardian cap. Some call it the mushroom cap. Now, I will confess, it looks really like silly, almost effeminate or something. But I guess, in order for it to be effective in terms of, helping to stop brain injury and things like that, they didn't go for fashion. They went for form and all of that. For those who don't know, this is not a brand new issue. It was already approved by the NFL to be used during the practice, part of the season. Now it is approved to use in games. I don't know how many will. It's maybe going to be a tough sell because you almost look like I can't remember the name of the cartoon, but there was like this mushroom cartoon thing, like the heads had mushroom caps or something. I mean, the thing looks silly, but side of me says, hey, if it prevents, all these concussions and brain injuries and things, that's, it's something to consider. What are your thoughts about the Guardian cap?
It sure does look silly, and it's quite frankly very ugly.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how you work the. There's got to be a way to work the team logo on it and in a better way. And
yeah, you want to do something like it's a masculine sport, and they just, I think a lot of people that would like to have something help them not get a concussion don't want to go out there and be made fun of, because the one that I posted on my page was Travis Kelce with the Guardian cap on, and I have to admit, I mean, he looked ridiculous. But I will also say I read every single comment, and there were many, dozens and dozens and dozens. It really drew a voluminous response. I'm telling you, Kirk, I think I could count on one hand the number of people that said, I don't care what it looks like, it's protecting them, it's a good thing. Almost every single person not only was in disagreement, but it was like visceral. It trashed it, couldn't stand it. It's right. If you had all of them out there wearing it, it would look pretty silly.
It would look like some kind of video game or something. I don't go for it. I mean, they're grown men. They can make their own choices. They've made such.
Kirk, they used to play with leather, whatever they called them, the leatherheads. I mean, there was no protection with those things.
No face guards, nothing.
Now they got actual helmets that they pump air. I mean, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want anybody to have concussions and have a bad quality of life after their career. I mean, I want to be supportive and compassionate about it, but it is a contact sport, and they can't go out there looking stupid.
Well, also, I've read so many articles about rugby being a total contact sport. They wear nothing.
Oh, that is such a physical sport.
And what happens is, because they wear nothing, they don't go for like the kill shot.
Right, they're not doing headshots. They'll do the header in like soccer and stuff like that. And some people have gotten concussions in soccer by doing a header, a headshot and things like that. But you're right, in rugby, it's such a physical sport. But you're right, they don't lead with the head, so they don't have the problem. But of course, in the NFL, they do. They use it a lot. And I don't think they should, because of neck injuries and things and concussions. But a lot of the players do, utilize that helmet as part of the deal.
Yeah, it looks like to me like they armor up with all the pads and the helmets and everything, and that makes them feel like they can just hit someone, like an atom bomb. Whereas if they didn't have, like in rugby, they don't have anything. They just make the play. They just, make the tackle, whatever, without trying to destroy the other person.
Right.
So,
what did you think? Let's move on. We'll do this until the bottom of the hour break. What did you think of the Eagles with a NFL record tying 8 trades? I think Howie Roseman, and I forget the guy's name. Who's the guy? Is it Mel Kiper Jr. on ESPN, college and football, just fanatic, NFL fanatic. Really, really good with the college, maybe even more than the NFL, but really quite expert in both spaces. He only gave, it might have been Rappaport now that I think about it, but anyhow, whoever their lead analyst is, gave only 2 teams an A for the draft, and the Eagles were one of them.
I consider Howie Roseman an absolute genius when it comes to talent evaluation.
Yeah, I do too.
And operating within the salary cap and all that. And I give him the benefit of the doubt no matter what.
I think Howie Roseman is the NFL's version of Brian Cashman, who I just have. I mean, obviously I'm a huge Yankee fan, but I have such respect for his ability to load and then reload, and then maybe every once in a while, they get it wrong, and then look at all the, if you followed them at all the corrections that they made during the off season, and they're off to a really good start. I look at Howie Roseman in that same sort of genius category. And he'd had a period in time where the Eagles fans despised him. He was a hero, then he was a GOAT, and I don't mean greatest of all time. Hero, bum, hero. But I agree with you. He knows how to do the job.
And if you look at the Eagles' record since, say, 1988, I believe I read somewhere that they have the best won-loss percentage of any team in the NFL since 1988.
And, Kirk, I'm not surprised by that. And you throw on top of that many of those were division championship years. You're playing first-place schedules, and that's tough.
Yeah, and they've got a national following because of their winning ways.
Yep.
And it all has to do with, obviously, personnel. And when you get the right people and the right, not only the players, but, get the right coaches in place.
I asked this question of Charlie Kane the other day. I said that, are the Eagles going to be like the team that was 10-1, or are they going to be like the team that finished like 1-6 or whatever it was? I still don't understand what happened. Last season is mystifying to me. And look, when they were 10-1, they got lucky in a couple of the games that could have gone either way. And maybe they weren't a 10-1 team. Maybe they were more like an 8-3 team. But they were 10-1, and then they weren't. Which team is going to show up in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers?
Well, I think they're loaded for bear. I think they're going to take what happened to them at the end of the season and wear it like a badge.
I hope so. I'll tell you what, Kirk, I don't like that game. I don't like that game. I think people think about Brazil and you think it's like a bajillion miles away. I was surprised as the crow flies. It's only about 3,800 miles away. I mean, California is 3,000 miles away.
Right.
So it's not the end of the world in terms of the travel. I thought it would be a lot longer flight than it will turn out to be. I just know that I followed these teams that go to the United Kingdom and they come back kind of messed up, and that's only 6 hours difference, or 5 hours, I think. But it's just something about it seems to affect the season. I wish the NFL would stop this over-the-top international push.
Yeah, do exhibition games.
Yeah.
In the preseason.
I'm for that.
Don't mess with the regular season.
I agreed. Yeah, I like what you just said.
And the other thing is the stadium they're playing in bans green.
They can't wear their green jerseys?
I don't know. That's a big question out there.
What is green in Brazil? What color is is the grass or the turf green? I mean, green's not allowed.
I know.
What are you going to be playing on blue AstroTurf?
It goes back to the fact that this is a soccer stadium, and the home soccer team's major hated rival wears green.
Wow!
So no one's allowed to wear green in the stadium.
So they're going to have a special uniform, is what you're saying.
Well, they probably all wear their all black.
That's true.
They have the black helmet. But no, I mean, there's so many things. It's in a foreign country. It's a different culture. You know, please, Eagles players, stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
Stay within the controlled environment.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, you know, Green Bay is a young, up-and-coming, really good team that they were basically good enough at the end of last year to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were right there, and that is I think that's a tough draw in Week 1.
And that's typical for the Eagles. Their first game, their first game last year was against Tampa Bay, was it?
I thought it was against Kansas City because they made a big deal out of a rematch of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then the year before it was against Tampa Bay, and the year before that was against New England. So they always start the year off with a tough team.
Yeah,
but that's what teams have to do. You know, if you're going to be a Super Bowl champion, you've got to beat the potential Super Bowl champs.
But it goes to show you, when you talk about how great their record has been for this extended period of time, they're always playing a first-place schedule, it seems. It's very tough. Halftime break. We're at 32 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover continues, and we mentioned the fact that WPG Talk Radio 95.5 is your President Trump Wildwood Rally radio station. Let's prove it.
Only one radio station was live when President Donald Trump visited Wildwood in 2020.
Got to be well over 12,000 people here, probably closer to 15,000 and beyond.
And now, as President Trump returns to Wildwood on Saturday, May 11th, only one radio station will be there again. WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
There's a mile-long line in the 4th Auxiliary area of tonight's event.
Your official Wildwood Rally radio station is WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City, Goshen, Cape May.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. Kirk Conover, yours truly, Hurley in the morning at 36 minutes past the hour. President Trump has made his way into this awful Judge Juan Merchan's courtroom. And so that craziness is underway. There's a banker that's testifying, so they're going to try to have him, I guess, say how this $130,000. It's amazing. This is, into the second week of the trial, and they still haven't shown where President Trump has committed any crime whatsoever. This Kirk, this is crazy what's going on.
Definitely trumped up charges.
Yeah.
That defy any logic in jurisprudence, and it's just a political persecution that's fit for a third world country, a banana republic, however you want to phrase it. But it's all coordinated. A guy from the Department of Justice, high-ranking lawyer in the Department of Justice, inserts himself into the Manhattan DA's office just to get Trump. Takes a pay cut, and
remember the first guy, Pomerantz, that went and wrote the book. I mean, it's just so wrong at so many levels. He offered to go in there for free. Like, don't pay me. I just want to convict Trump. I mean, we have never witnessed anything like this. I mean, you look at the reversal of Weinstein. This is not even close to that. This decision, I believe they know it, Kirk. This decision, if they get a conviction, the decision cannot stand, and it will not stand. But look what they would have accomplished, though. They take the president off of the campaign trail for 6 or 8 weeks, however long this thing is going to go. They get to then say he's a convicted felon if they get a guilty verdict. They charge him 34 times, just hoping to get one. Hoping as a jury to say, all right, well, a lot of this is crap, but let's find him guilty of just one thing, like what they did to the Atlantic City police officer, Tad DiLorenzo. Howard Kyle and a couple other people that I know that were on that jury, they didn't understand. They ruined that guy's life. He was completely innocent. He's dead now, by the way. It's just so sad. Died young. You never know. I mean, they're saying all these things in the trial, Kirk. None of them are crimes, but they're saying to the jury that Trump has committed crimes. But then everything they say is not a crime.
Yeah, everything I hear from the witnesses that have been on the stand, I mean, I don't hear every word that they say, but in the reporting on, let's say, Fox News Channel, FoxNews.com, it seems like there's nothing there.
Well, I'll give you an example. As you know, I work for Fox News as a pretty active fill-in on-air host. Just last week, I had the opportunity to interview on the same day Annie McCarthy and Greg Jarrett. Both of them said that not a single thing that has come out is a crime.
I heard those interviews, yep. And Jonathan Turley,
yep,
he's saying the same thing. So this is obviously a political persecution, and it's not right, but it's designed and coordinated by the Biden minions in the White House. All those prosecutors involved in all the cases have all been to the White House. So you can't tell me that Biden and his minions and Obama and the Obama bots that are in the Biden administration aren't coordinating this.
Well, they are, and this guy Merchan, for example, he absolutely should have recused himself just from his own daughter's activities. It's right there in the New York law that says if a family member would extend to you as having a conflict. I mean, she viscerally despises Trump, is a Democrat operative and fundraiser, and this judge keeps the case, Kirk, because he wants to.
Yeah, and another point that fascinates me is that the hatred for Trump. I mean, we thought the hatred towards George W. Bush was unfair and unfounded because he was a fine man.
Yeah, and they called him Hitler. So, I mean, now think about how tame that is compared to how they treat Trump. But let's default to they called George W. Bush Hitler.
And why? How? What the heck did he do?
They just say it.
You're right. I don't know where someone with a rational mind, and that's, of course, questionable in a lot of people, can actually just decide they're going to hate somebody so bad. First of all, hatred in your heart is sinful.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have hatred towards anybody. And this what these wackos come out with is such insanity that I don't know what Trump did to trigger it, except run for president.
Except win.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He won. He ran, and he won. Before he ran, the liberal elite loved him. He was invited to all their beautiful parties.
Yeah, he was on Howard Stern all the time. He was on this show, that show. It was great.
He dared to do something they cannot accept. He ran and he won, and they cannot process that. They cannot handle that. And it's as simple as they hate him more than they love their country.
And as soon as he came down the escalator, they started hating on him.
Yeah.
And that was when people were saying, oh, he's only got like a 1% chance of winning. So
and they actually said he wasn't really running, that it was just a fake out. And I remember saying, no. I mean, I know he's running. I knew what day he was going to announce. We actually, on the digital platform of WPG Talk Radio 95.5, that article is still in the archives if anybody wants to see it. We knew when he was running. We knew what day he was coming down the escalator. The rest of the media, they were saying that he was faking. This was just a stunt. He wasn't really running. He was. And they gave him, like you said, 1% chance.
And it 1% chance, you would think, why hate on someone? They only got 1% chance. But it started right away, and I don't know what it is about him, except that maybe he doesn't show the side that you and I know about him, the kind side, the humorous side. You know, the guy that someone stops and helps fix a flat tire in his limo, and then the next thing you know, 3 weeks later, he pays the guy's mortgage off. I mean, I think that side is what he's got to come out and show. He's got to be a little softer, a little more measured. It won't stop the haters, but it'll bring aboard more of the people he has to persuade.
Kirk is a really good point. Let me say this real quick into the break, and if there's more necessary on this, the time is certainly yours on the other side of the break, and it's a very short break. It's not even 2 minutes, so we're going to come back very, very quickly. Let me share this point. They know he does all those things. They won't allow that side to be seen. They want to win in the worst way, so they will never acknowledge these characteristic traits, positive ones. It's a shame. This portion of the Hurley in the Morning program, very pleased to report, brought to us in part by Ambient Comfort, heating and air conditioning professionals. And if you haven't scheduled them yet, then you know yesterday when it did hit 83. Dan Zarrow called it. He said it would be 83, and it was 83 degrees at the Ponderosa. I took a screen capture of it, and you know if your system isn't working on a day like that because it just simply cannot keep up. So don't wait until you're all sweaty and miserable. The sooner you discover a problem, the easier the repairs tend to be. And this is another great thing about what Ambient Comfort is doing with their tune-up special this spring into summer season. If you're a new customer, it's just $59, and it's well worth it. You'll have a certified technician in your home performing a thorough precision tune-up on your system. And then that makes sure that your system is running safe, that your system will be running at maximum efficiency, and it will be prepared to get you through the summer heat. That's regardless of who originally installed it. When comfort matters, choose who I choose. Ambient Comfort. Schedule your tune-up right now at AmbientComfortNJ.com. That's AmbientComfortNJ.com. If you like to pick up the phone and you like to speak with someone, simple to do, 609-568-0955. That's 609-568-0955 for your $59 air conditioning tune-up for new customers. Tell them Harry Hurley sent you. With Kirk Conover, Buddy Conover, I am respectfully yours.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
Honesty and transparency, is not afraid to get down and dirty and really just tell me the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
Hurley in the morning.
It's breaking news that I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, Kirk, before we get back to the hard-hitting news, does Buddy Conover approve of today's program thus far?
He loves it. He loves it. He's having a great day listening to us. He can hear you and me.
I love it. That makes me happy. All right, so while we're talking...
He's had a great morning.
Oh, yeah. While we're talking about dogs, I think you know where I'm going to go. I want to bring something up. I don't want to conflate. I don't want to play the whataboutism game, but I vividly remember covering when Mitt Romney, and he choked. That's why he hates Trump so much. Mitt Romney should have been president, and he choked. He really did. And anyhow, it was very unfair. He had his dog Seamus in it was like a condominium. It was a beautiful, beyond kennel. By the way, I want to congratulate myself and Joe Kelly. We're playing with a vibration that's going on that would unnerve most people. I shouldn't have mentioned it. But anyhow, back to Seamus. Seamus was on top of the car in his condominium, and the media treated Romney like I don't even know, like the worst PETA offender in world history. Now, let's not forget, Obama ate dog. You don't forget that, do you, Kirk?
No, in Indonesia.
Yeah, so Obama ate dog. Romney had a dog condominium. Now, I didn't defend Kristi Noem yesterday, and I'm not going to today. Could very well be that rugged, as you would call it, individualism, just the fact that animals are utility in some states to a big, way, and maybe they do it a little bit different in South Dakota. But, of course, her self-reporting that she killed her 14-month-old dog, Cricket, because he was a worthless hunting dog that had the greatest day of his life when he spoiled their hunt. And this is not going over well. So there's 3 potential presidential or vice presidential level candidates and dog issues. Obama ate the dog. He gets to be president. Mitt Romney had the dog in the condominium on top of the car, and that was the Brinks job. That was he didn't have any dreams from my father books, to make, and the media to make him look good. He was trashed, and then of course Kristi Noem got it from everybody yesterday. Can you explain what Kristi Noem? I mean, I don't know why she put it in her book, except for she knew she wants to be vice president. It seems like she's too ambitious to me, Kirk, but she wanted to be vice president. This was going to come out, so she thought she would self-report, and she tried to tell the story about, this is what we do, and if a horse gets a very bad injury, we have to, put a horse down too. I don't think it worked, Kirk. What do you say?
No, I think she was trying to get ahead of it. She knew the story would come out somewhere, sometime, and I think it's a bad move. I mean, there's a lot of dog lovers, including me, but I think I remember her saying that the dog had bit many different people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She didn't do a good job explaining this. She just tells the story about it getting some chickens and that she shot it. She took it to a gravel pit and shot it dead. I think much more defendable would have been it bit humans. It also bit livestock and all of that. I think she just did a terrible job explaining what she did here.
Well, in New Jersey, if you have a dog that has so many dog bites, they put them down. They take them to a vet, put them to sleep.
Right, but you don't take the dog to a gravel pit and shoot the dog.
Not in New Jersey.
Right.
We're talking.
I know, but when you're running in 50 states, you've got everybody's own expectations. That's why I'm saying I agree. If you're in South Dakota or Wyoming, we could pick a number of states where people are probably saying, what's the fuss here? What are you talking about? The dog was biting people, killing livestock. The dog had to go. But it's been sort of defined in a way that I I don't think she can be considered on the national ticket.
No, I agree. I think at this point, right now, with the way the story's out there, it seems like it's a kill shot. And she's not going to...
Let me ask you a question, Kirk, because I agree with that, by the way, and I don't say that. I liked Kristi Noem. I don't like this, though. But is it a kill shot for 2024, or is it a kill shot for her forever?
Well, it's not going to be a kill shot for her forever in South Dakota.
Right, for governor. I'm talking about
national.
Yeah, her running for president or vice president.
Right. I think right now, from what I see, I think it is. I've always liked her, but I prefer Tim Scott as vice president.
Yeah, me too. And now, I agree with your entire analysis. Now let me ask you this. Is that fair or is it unfair? Nobody said life's fair. You know, what's his face? Who's the guy that was on Saturday Night Live? Minnesota Senator Al Franken. If Al Franken, if that came out today, he would not be canceled.
Right. Well, it's probably unfair.
Yeah.
But as you know, in politics and in economics, perception is as important as reality.
Yeah. And Kirk, you got to give it to these guys. Obama's strategist, David Axelrod, at the time that they were carving up Mitt Romney for putting his family dog Seamus in a kennel on top of the car, he knew his candidate had eaten dog. They're really unconscionable, these people. So he comes out with a photo of the president with his dog in the car and then saying how loving owners transport their dogs, quote, end quote. You got to give it to these guys. They are Romney had Seamus. They are shameless.
And also, now look at Biden's dogs.
Oh, biting everybody.
Biting people all over the place.
Yeah, and they never put his dogs down at all.
And you don't hear anything more about it. Where are they?
Hey, by the way,
somewhere where they
isn't this kind of ironic? You've got Romney, Obama, and Biden, and now Kristi Noem with dog issues. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Dog issues. You wouldn't think that would translate into politics, but it does.
Well, let me go back. Remember Nixon and the Checker speech?
Yeah.
Taking that dog as a gift or whatever it was that was the famous Checker speech. Then don't forget there was FDR, and my late great friend Sid Asher wrote the speech. There was the Falla speech. Kirk, I just came up with something. Dogs have been injected in presidential politics for beyond our lifetime.
Well, it's almost mandatory that you have to have a dog if you run for president. And if you're elected president, you must have a dog in the White House. You can't tell me that Biden had those two dogs prior to...
Come on. They're not even trained well. It's a total... What was it? One was called Scout, and the other one was, I forget the other one.
Commander
and Scout. Oh, total scam, Kirk. All the way. Total scam. But I can't believe I just on the fly came up with this. Falla and FDR, Checkers, Nixon, Seamus, Romney, Obama eating dog, and now we have Cricket.
And George Bush's dogs were well behaved and cute.
That's
and
true.
Beautiful.
And also remember Millie, Barbara Bush, and George H.W. Bush's dog. Yeah. I actually have a book autographed by Barbara Bush and George Bush, and the paw print of Millie.
And didn't the Clintons have a dog and a cat? And when they left the White House?
Yeah, Clinton had the cat Socks. Now, there's a great story about Socks. Socks, in his socks drawer, is where Clinton hid the audio tapes that he stole. Remember, he didn't get criminally charged. Only Trump does. Clinton did what they say Trump did, but nothing happened to him. And they had a dog. Oh, God, how can I not forget the name of Clinton's dog? I was going to say Bo, but Bo is Obama's dog. What was the Clintons' dog's name?
I can't remember, but what I was troubled by is that they leave the White House and they give the dog and the cat to someone else.
Well, because they never cared for him there.
Right.
It was a scam.
Yep. They're props. They use them as props.
Yeah, I think the cat was Socks, and I can't remember.
Socks is right.
I can't remember the name of the dog.
But yeah, it's funny what influences politics and people's perceptions and what people, these analysts latch on to. Like last night, Sean Hannity was playing, a tape of Skeletor Carville going crazy on Trump and how he's like the next Hitler and all that. It's an insane world, and the idea that these people are going to, influence how you pick the next president and the person that runs the economy for the next 4 years, it just is, what does Jefferson say? You don't want to see how it works?
Yeah, exactly. Messy. But isn't that kind of, I don't know what to make of this impromptu narrative that we did, because it shows man's best friend enters this political arena in ways expected and unexpected.
Absolutely. And, it's perception. I mean, there's everybody, loves animals that I know. There isn't anybody that hates animals that I associate with. I mean, you feel sorry for even the wild animals. They get themselves in a pickle and have to be rescued. I love watching those videos.
Me too. Oh, gosh, I love it. I love it so much. It's one of those things where the culture in a rural state puts something that is acceptable there in contradiction to many other states around the country, that it's not relatable. Like someone hears, she did what? She took the dog. Like, let me give you an example. They're posting a picture today, and it's Kamala Harris holding this beautiful dog. And let's see if I can find it, because there's a comment with it. And now I can't find it because my feed has updated. But it said how I know I'm getting this correct. It says how good people treat their dogs.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. So something that's sort of accepted because the dogs are utility in nature and they hunt and they do this and that. She even said the dog was worthless as a hunting dog and had the greatest time of its life when it was going to all the whatever it was they were trying to shoot. And so it was spoiling their hunt. And then also it bit humans and it also killed chickens. But what people hear is that here is this animal, human, that took her 14-month-old, they say puppy, but 14 months isn't a puppy, but 14-month-old puppy to the gravel pit and shot it dead. It's a little hard to... if you were on the debate team and you had to defend that, well, you have to understand this, after all, is South Dakota, and, it's different than it is in, say, Boston or in Atlantic City or, you know the old expression, when you're explaining, you're losing?
Yeah.
I just don't think you can explain that one.
No, and I'm not going to try to explain it.
I know. As Buddy as Buddy co-hosts the show with you today.
Yeah, like I said, he's had a heck of a morning, man. He's chased, ran around barking at squirrels. We leave the side door open. It's such a beautiful day, so he goes in and out, runs in and out of the backyard, barks at nothing, gets a little bit of food, a few treats, and now he's just chilling out while we're on the air.
Yeah, I like it. All right, we have about 3 minutes, Kirk. What would you like to close with?
Well, as I have stated before, inflation is making a comeback. The personal consumption expenditure index that the Fed uses has ticked up. It's higher than expected.
Right.
Which means inflation is still persistent.
But Kirk, my theory is, and I don't even think it's my theory, I think it's fact. It's not an opinion, I don't believe. You tell me if you agree or disagree. Inflation never left. What happened is the rate of inflation is growing at a lower rate. And although that is now ticking up for 3 or 4 straight months in a row as well, but that inflation that took prices up by such a tremendous amount, that is now baked in. You don't lose that.
No, the prices stay up,
yeah.
And that drains the consumer, and it erodes real wages, which means, getting back to our initial point earlier in the hour, people aren't buying the big stuff.
Exactly.
Because the real wages are deteriorated.
Kirk, explain this with your Wharton School prowess and your degree. $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, and that would include Parent Plus loans as well. So you have that $1.7 trillion in school debt. You have about $1.2 trillion, I think it is, in credit card debt that is just staggering. How does this affect the economy and the American people?
Well, it pushes the day of reckoning down the road a little bit, but the day of reckoning always comes when you have to pay it. And the problem with this persistent inflation is, with real wages being eroded, it gets more and more difficult to pay back. When you reach your limit on your loans and your credit cards, it's more difficult to pay them back. So it's a real problem.
And then you don't even have credit you can use, and you're making minimum payments. If you ever look at your bill, ladies and gentlemen, if you make minimum payments, you will pay this off in 36 years and 4 months. I mean, it is devastating what this does to people.
Right. It drains the economy of money that would otherwise be, current consumption.
Just like when gas goes up 40 cents a gallon in a period of about a week, it just went crazy. That's $1.5 billion out of the economy for every penny that the gasoline goes up. Think about those tens of billions out of the ability of the American people to have that to spend.
Well, the bottom line is policies have to change.
Yeah.
We have to get back to supercharging our energy economy, because that's what powers us.
And that's why November 5th is so critical.